principles of economics. That's for our NID students. And then for the business management students, you can do with principles of economics. All right. So you are welcome, and it's good to have you all on the call. Thank you so much. So today we will not be having the attendance form link. That's because it's a continuation, right? So we'll not be having an attendance form link for today. So you just enjoy the class for today. And at 12 p.m., we will be going on a very short break and we'll be back at 12:30. My name still remains Mercy, and I will hand it over to our lecturer for today in the person of Hafiz Salisu. Hafiz, you are welcome, and you can take it up from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Kindly confirm that you can hear me clearly. Good morning, everybody.
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Victor, Covenant, Akindoyin, Tribe, Jonathan, Glory. Good morning. It's truly an honor to be amongst big men and women like you. Good morning. Please confirm if you can hear me. Aside Mercy, obviously. Good morning.
Sure,
Can you confirm?
I can hear.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you. As Messi had rightly mentioned, my name is Hafiz, and this is a continuation of the class that we had some few weeks back. So, I always say that economics is a very, very interesting course. It's something that applies to us, irrespective of what we do and how we do things, where we are. Permit me to share my screen. I would bring that up shortly. Please let me know once you can see my screen. Kindly confirm when you can see my screen, please.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Once again, season greetings to everybody here on this call. I'm sure everybody is preparing one way or another for for the festivity coming in a few days. So I'm sure that people are already in the vibe of it's already Christmas. Everybody's already thinking around the 25th, 26th, 27th, and things like that. And of course, rightly so, we should be in that spirit, obviously. And then, of course, it's going to be a beautiful one. Hopefully the next year also comes with awesome greatness for everybody here. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. So sometime last week, not last week now, a few weeks back, we discussed things around economics, things around the scope of economics, understanding what price theory is, understanding the theory of production, factors affecting, what we basically treated a few weeks ago was economics, scope of economics, and understanding price theory. So what we are doing today is two areas: understanding the theory of production as well as factors affecting the location and regulation of industry. So that's what we're doing today. So as last week, why do I keep saying last week? As a few weeks ago, we discussed things around economics, the scope, people who propounded it, people who gave their own definitions to it. We discussed about micro and macroeconomics, concept of scarcity. We talked in depth around these things. We even brought up, we spoke about the theories and the people who propounded those theories. We talked about how economics is related to other courses, other fields as well. We also discussed around price theory. I'm sure we also did things around demand, supply. We even talked about things around elasticity, things like that. So today is really, really going to be just a continuation. We talked about utility too, marginal utility, and all of those things, price elasticity, like I mentioned earlier, income elasticity too. We even did some calculations too as that last week, which I'm sure that many people is that part of things. Today also, there's always going to be one form of calculation or another. So please get yourself ready, as it's going to be hands-on, nothing serious, just punching numbers here and there in your calculator, and I'm sure you get the right answers. Usually, this is not a complex problem like a normal further mathematics or a normal mathematics. This one, there's nothing like saying you're bringing one almighty formula from somewhere, or you're bringing one equation or the other. Some people, when they hear equation, everything are scattered. As long as it's not plus and minus, if you bring equation, anything you say equation one, equation two, equation three, the next equation you've lost them already. So there's nothing like that on this case, so it's just simple economics, simple plus and minus, and then division here and there, and then of course you're good. Economics is a very, very interesting course, I will tell you, because it's really, really something that you can easily relate to. There are things that you're seeing in your everyday life, and you can easily relate to some of those things, so like I said, it's very, very interesting, and of course today we'll definitely have fun doing this. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, today we'll be discussing theories of did I say theories? Today we'll be discussing theory of production, and really, I mean, this is something very, very simple too. There are things, like I said, that are easily relatable. So usually when people say production, some people just think it's just about producing things or manufacturing things or constructing things, or bringing some things into play. But it's really not just physical products. It could be services, it could be anything. So the idea is, as long as there's a process that is being put in place to convert something into a finished service, into a finished product, into something that is beneficial to another person. So production can really be in two ways. It could be the physical production of goods and services. It could actually be services also that was provided from one particular person to another. Usually in theory of production, what people factor are four different things. The land, labor, capital, entrepreneur coming together and then converting all of those resources together into finished goods. And of course, it's something that has to be of need. It's something that is valuable to the final consumer at the end of the day, because imagine you producing something, or imagine you providing services that is not useful to the final consumer. Do you think you have produced anything? I will argue that if you have not produced anything, really, because it does not provide that value, it does not provide that satisfaction to the final consumer, it does not really address a particular need, So, but the idea is, of course, you've converted so many resources, man, material, machines, and all of those things in place, and then being able to, convert those things into finished goods. So let me throw this out there. What would you say are the factors of production? Of course, this is something that is very, very simple, right? But let me throw it out there. Factors of production, anybody? Factors of production. I'm sure, of course, these are things that you've had countless times, back in secondary school, back in probably higher institutions, other institutions, I meant to say. So anybody, factors of production. I mean, they are pretty simple things. Factors of production, anybody? What are the factors of production? Common things, of course. What are the factors of production? Anybody? Factors of production. Covenant, Akindoyin, Victor, Glory, I saw your face earlier. Jonathan, Tribe, factors of production. I mean, they are simple things. They are
Um,
simple things.
Good
Yeah.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Factors of production, I think land, labor, um, and what again? There are three.
Oh,
So
you've
land,
tried.
labor,
Yeah, he's tried. I see somebody
entrepreneur.
dropping. Exactly. So I see Jonathan, I see Akindoye's contribution. Yeah, capital, labor, land. Yeah. You're right. And actually, in what they call it now, will I say, what's the best word to use now? Hmm on a regular day, the actual factors of production that people know are four factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. But of course, things have changed, though. Things have changed. We're in the 21st century now, so if you look at economics textbook about few years ago, or between few years ago and now, what you would see as factors of production are land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. Those are the common ones that we know. But of course, things have evolved, right? We're in the 21st century. the way we operate or the way we do things now are not the way things are done anymore. So there are new things that have also been introduced as factors of production, even though this is not documented as in textbooks, and things like that. But of course, with the recent with recent technology and all of those things, things obviously will evolve. So aside land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, that are factors of production, two things has also been introduced. One is technology, another one is information. So I know that some people will argue that technology should be infused inside one of the four regular ones, probably capital or something like that. But technology on its own, it's a large area that capital alone doesn't cover it. Information also, you would not be able to say you would go far, if you don't have the right information that you would use, to produce more or provide better efficiency in something, or to even convert certain things, or for you to even expand your business into something else. Because information is key in everyday life, right? And they used to say this thing, that information is power. So if you have an information as at before, and today in the 21st century, the information that you have 10 years ago is obviously outdated. It's obsolete. So the information that you have now, the idea that you have now, is also a factor of production. But of course, we'll get to that point. We will discuss those things in detail, and then of course we would proceed. So like I said, the regular factors of production are, of course, the land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, which obviously are the four pillars as at before 21st century. But I was saying that, of course, there are two things also that have been introduced: technology as well as information. But let's look at these things one after the other. Land, right? This is something that is very, very common. This is something that we have in abundance, and then of course, it is not just the physical soil that you're looking at. You're looking at some of the things that can be gotten from the land itself, which covers things like mineral resources, which covers things like fertile or arable land for you to produce one thing or the other. It encompasses a lot of things. So land in itself is an asset. It's something that of course would give you or yield profit for you in the short run and as well as in the long run. So it's something that of course it is really, really needed in terms of production. So even in terms of services, right? It is not just about physical production of goods and goods alone, but even in services, there is no way. I know some people will argue this, but there is no way that you can successfully provide a full-time service without having a location to say this is where I operate from. Mind you, people can operate businesses, from anywhere. Some will say you don't even need to have an office. In fact, some of our clients today will say that, what, we are a remote company, we don't have an office, but you will not say you don't have an office, because if you say you don't have an office, who takes you seriously? I don't know if you get what I'm saying, so there is no way that you will not have one place that you will say it is my location or it is my physical location. This is one of the reasons why people are afraid of using OPay. Because some people will say OPay doesn't have office, so they don't have office, but of course they do have an office. Even though their services are seamless, they do not have a signboard somewhere, some signboard rather, somewhere to say this is our office or these are our offices. But the thing is, you must have some form of location to be written to say, okay, this is where I operate from. And of course, this is essential because it provides more like confidence for your customers. It provides, a validation of the kind of business that you do. So there is no way that you say that I want to operate a business and say I will not have an office at all. You could decide to do that. You can do that in the comfort of your own house. But if you look at it well, even your house is a location, right? So you can't operate without having one form of business location or another. So that's for land. And somebody remind me, what's the reward for land? What would you say is the reward for land? I mean, it's simple too. Reward for land, anybody? I mean, these are things that we also
Rent,
obviously know. Somebody
rent,
say what?
rent.
Rent. Yes, awesome. Thank you, Shrive. Thank you, Glory. Yes, rent. Absolutely. rent. It is. So of course, if you pay rent, if you have what's it called now? If you have a land, of course, the reward for that obviously is rent. Don't look at it like a landlord tenant kind of thing, but the idea is that there's a reward or there's something that comes out from you using land. It's monetary. It's something that comes out as a return for using a space. So even though looking at it from tenancy, landlord kind of thing is also a good way to look at it, but the idea behind it is that there is a monetary thing that comes behind using a space. So obviously, the reward for land is rent. But let's look at the next one, labor, right? Labor now means that any physical or mental effort that was used, by individuals to be able to convert certain things into finished goods. So it now means that whatever manpower that you were able to use to convert something, from a production point of view, to process those things also, and then ensuring that you have a finished product at the end of the day. Those resources that you use at that time are called labor, or is called labor. Now, like I said, it's not just about the physical product. Services inclusive. Yeah. So you could say you're providing a digital service now. Say, for instance, you're a fintech company, or let's say, for instance, you are a what will you call? What's the easiest thing to use now? Or let's say POS attendant. As long as you have somebody who's helping you manage some of those things, of course, you're using a resource, to convert a particular service, and then somebody else is satisfied from the services that person has provided. So the idea is to be able to use resources in terms of human now to convert certain services into finished products, or convert certain physical materials into production, into finished goods, I meant to say. Now, where it gets interesting in labor is areas where we have things like, okay, so let me do something. Areas where we have things like the skilled and unskilled, and things like that. So I want somebody to do something for me. Somebody should tell me, or somebody should help me rearrange these things, right? How would you rearrange it? Please look at my screen. Um, uh, Look at my screen. Okay, what am I doing? Okay. Hmm. Okay, somebody should help me rearrange this. Unskilled, skilled, professional, semi-skilled. Which one comes before which, and which one is the highest of it? Somebody help me. Somebody help me. Help me rearrange this. Which one is first? Which one is the lowest, and which one is the highest? Yes, let's arrange it in that form. Which is the lowest and which is the highest? Anybody? Glory, Jonathan, you can unmute, please. You can unmute so that we share ideas. Awesome. Thank you, Glory. Okay, but let's hear another person's opinion. Victor. Hi, Victor. What did you say? Victor, were you speaking? Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I can't hear him. I don't know if anybody could understand or hear what Victor was saying. All right, so let me check the chat room.
Okay, I said first because I don't have unskilled.
Okay, unskilled. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Victor. Yes.
Okay, and second we have semi-skilled. Third we have unskilled, and we have the highest of it all is professional.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Victor. Does anybody have any contrary opinion? Does anybody have any contrary opinion? Does anybody thinks a professional or a skilled person is better than a professional? Let me put it like that. Does anybody have any contrary opinion? Do you think a skilled person is better than a professional? Anybody, please, let's make this interactive. Let's make this interactive. Thank you, Glory. Thank you. I think I saw somebody else's comment. Akindoyi. Thank you. Any contrary opinion? Any contrary? Do you think semi-skilled should come before unskilled? Any contrary opinion? All right. If there is none, where do you think we should put people like artisans? Good question, yes? Where do you think we should put things like people like artisans? Skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, professionals. Remember that artisans can also be professionals. Good question, yes? Where do you think we should put things, people like artisans? People talk now, talk. A professional is not somebody who is a perfect at his skill, I think. You're right, Glory. You're right. Mr.
Artisan,
Shuaib.
they are under artisan and under skill.
Okay. That's one opinion. That's one opinion. All right, Victor Akindoyi, let me hear you now. Covenant, artisans should be under-skilled. Okay. Jonathan, Christian, comment. Skilled. Okay. Any other comments? Any
I
other
didn't hear it
thoughts?
clearly.
No, I was asking, where do you think we should put people under artisans? People like artisans. Should artisans be on skilled labor? Should artisans be skilled labor? Should artisans be
I said, what
professionals?
question is the question?
Well, that was what I was saying. Where do you think we should put artisans? Look at my screen. Look at my screen. You see unskilled, professional, skilled, semi-skilled. Where do you think we should put artisans? I'm sure you know who artisans are, right, Victor? Artisans are people who have what's the word now? The people who you see have do handwork. That's the general term. Like people with handwork, yes. Where do you think we should put them? Unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled, or professionals?
I think it's skewed. You put them under skewed.
Why would you say that, Victor? Why would you say skilled?
You said it's handwork. They've learned it already. So at least they are good in it already. So they are skilled in it. They are skilled.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other comments? Any other thoughts? Anybody other contribution? Who has a contrary opinion? Who thinks they should be unskilled? After all, some of them didn't go to school. Abi? I know somebody's thinking that. Tell me now. Tell me. I want to hear any other contrary opinion. Artisans. Okay, I can do it. Thank you. Any other contrary opinion? I mean, some people who do handworks. I mean, obviously, some actually went to school. Some are even graduates. I understand that, but majority of those people, people like welder. I mean, even welders. Yeah, some of them are even excellent graduates. So, but the general opinion of people is that these people are people who didn't go to school, are people who learned handwork. And then of course they are not categorized under one of these categories. But who here thinks so that's not went to school before doing the job? Oh yeah, I agree with you, Christian. I agree. But who here thinks that they should be unskilled? So we don't overflog this, obviously. Let me try not to overflog this. So you guys are absolutely correct. In fact, they can also be categorized as professionals, because you would also see artisans who are, they are actual professionals when it comes to doing this work. They are not people who you see by the roadside. They are people who, have an established business. In fact, they have a professional location. In fact, some of them if you want to, let's say, for instance, a welder, if you want to design something, let's say, for instance, you want somebody to design a gate for you, and there is an idea around how you want that gate to be designed. It's going to be a remote-driven gate. This is not something that where somebody from the roadside will come and help you design. So these people are actual professionals. So you have to document what exactly that you want to have. You have to even write down how step by step how this thing needs to be done. So they are categorized as skilled as well as professionals. So don't ever think that they are unskilled or they are semi-skilled. You could say the ones at the roadside might be semi-skilled or even unskilled, but generally, they are skilled and unskilled. In fact, there's this thing that one of our boss will say. There's this thing about category of or competence level. This thing about competence level, right? There are people who are unconsciously incompetent. There are people who are consciously incompetent. There are people who are consciously competent, and there are some people who are unconsciously competent. I hope I've not confused you guys. All right, so let me put this here. let me put this here. Okay, so let me do this. Let me do this. So there are people who are unconsciously incompetent, consciously competent, consciously, no, this is incompetence, competent, unconsciously, why is my spelling of? Yeah, so let me explain something. I'm sure, I mean, some of us are already familiar with this, right? Some of us are really, really familiar already with this. But this is, we just talking about, labor and how people should categorize labor. So earlier we're talking about skilled and unskilled, blah, blah, blah. So let me put that here. So this is competence level. Right, we're talking about competence level now under labor, right? So there are people who are unconsciously incompetent. These are people who, they do not know it at all. I mean, they do not know jack, and they feel like they know. Oh, sorry, they do not know it, and they do not know that they do not know it. Right, I hope I'm not confusing you. So there's competence level and there are categories of people, right? The first category are people who they call unconsciously incompetent. These are people who do not know at all, right? And they do not know that they do not know. There are people who you see them carrying their head up and down, thinking that they know, but they do not even know it at all. There are also people who you will call the consciously incompetent. At least this one knows that he does not know, and he admits that he does not know. Right? You see the difference? Unconsciously incompetent. He does not know, and he does not know that he does not know. The consciously incompetent is somebody who does not know, and he admits and he knows that he does not know. Right. The next category are people who are consciously competent. These are people who they know, and at least they know that they know. There are people also who are unconsciously competent. These are people who they know beyond. Even if you wake them this morning like this, asking them about quantum, what they call that in a quantum physics or quantum something, they're able to explain it to you without even thinking about it. So these are categories of competence level. In fact, you will say that the people within the unconsciously competent are people with like the professionals, right? You will even say somebody who is consciously competent is a skilled person. I hope I'm making sense. You could even say somebody who is consciously incompetent is maybe semi-skilled, and then the person who is unconsciously incompetent, obviously, you will say that one is unskilled at all. That one doesn't even know what he doesn't even know what he's doing at all, So, but it's important that we need to understand how these things work. It is important that we understand how best to be able to, recruit and get the right people to help us carry out one activity or the other. Anyways, that's speaking about labor and skill sets and skills, abilities and competence level, and things like that. What would you say the reward for labor is? What would you say the reward for labor is? Anybody? Reward for labor. After all, we said the reward for land is rent. Glory, thank you. Any other person who thinks it's something else? Is there any other person who thinks the reward shouldn't be that? Anybody, aside
We want
Glory, of
labor
course.
is I
Say
guess.
that again.
Reward for labor is wages and salary, if I'm not
Thank
mistaken.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, interesting question. What do you think is the difference between wage and salary? Economics is fun, right? What do you think is the difference between wage and salary? Good question, yes?
If you say wages is what you collect, daily. If I get, we collect a wage,
Okay.
but salary is monthly. You have to wait, to collect that.
So, what do you think? What do you think footballers earn?
Footballers,
Yes.
the one is, I think it's weekly. I don't know. I don't know what I'm classify that one on. I'll collect that money weekly.
Okay, so I'll come back to that. So, any other person, what's the difference between wage and salary? Mhm. Akindoyin, wage daily. Okay. Thank you. I see Glory's hand up. Glory, please go ahead.
Okay, salary is usually based on the time frame that you worked for. So you can be paid at the end of the month usually. But wages is usually based on the work that you have done. So you can be paid at any time. And if you don't work, you don't get paid. I think that's the
Absolutely.
difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. So salary can be paid. It's salary, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's paid after a month. You could collect salary at the end of 1 week. It's a contractual agreement. It's a contractual agreement that, what, I want to do this particular work for you, and between this period and this period, it should be paid. Usually not one day, right? Usually not one day, right? So salary can be paid, in a week. It could be paid in 2 weeks. It could be paid in 3 weeks. After all, in some certain countries, you are paid weekly. You're paid bi-weekly. I don't know. So in fact, wages really are. I mean, wages really is a payment made to somebody for the completion of a particular task. So ideally, wages should be that, when I contract you to do this particular work for me, for today, your wage will be that I'm paying you 1,000 naira, or I'm paying you 2,000 naira for that particular activity that you've done for me today. In fact, some people will say that the collation of a wage becomes a salary. Some people say that, but the idea really is that wage is a payment made on a daily basis, for the completion of a particular activity. Salary can now be a collation of the wages that was paid, or a payment made to somebody after a particular duration agreed upon. So back to the question I was asking Victor about footballers either being paid wage or become salary. Usually footballers, they call it wages. They call it wages. They don't call it salary. Also, remember that footballers are paid not exactly weekly. So if you think that they are paying footballers weekly, you're wrong. They don't pay footballers weekly. Usually footballers have a contract, that is being signed for a particular period of time. And it is agreed that within this particular period of time, you'll be paid $100 million or 100 million euros. So it is now when they've taken out all of those taxes and blah, blah, blah out of that particular contract sum, that the rest is now splitted monthly or whatnot, but usually it is not even paid on a weekly basis. I think usually they are being paid on a monthly as well, but they don't pay them weekly. They just split it so that, you just think the amount that they are collecting on a weekly basis is huge. But remember that even the huge fee you are hearing, there's always going to be taxes, there's always going to be one thing or the other that they need to pay for, so the money that is coming to them isn't really that amount that you're hearing. It is the amount plus other things involved. Anyway, I was just trying to digress, and just for us to be able to understand the concept of what we're talking about. So thank you very much, everybody, for your contribution. Christian, salary is what you paid at the end of the month. Why is it paid? Thank you. Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you very much. So forgive me for digressing, but I think this has been interesting, right? So yeah, salary, reward for labor obviously is wage or salary. Right. This brings us to capital, right? Usually capital is the amount of money the amount of money that was invested to carry out a particular project, or carry out a particular production process or service process involved, right? Ideally, people also would say that, the capital really is the amount of money that you also use to get machines, you get some equipment that are assets to you that will also help. The short-term assets really, that will help you achieve a particular end goal. So capital really is the amount of money. Sometimes people go out of their way to collect loans, to invest on a particular project that they have in mind, to ensure that a business is moved from one particular point to the other. So it can be anything, as long as the money involved to get that thing, there's a huge money amount put aside, to carry out a particular activity, or to carry out a particular production activity or service activity as it is. So like I said, It could be money that was used to buy machines, buy this or buy that, as long as those items that are being bought will be used for a conversion process to get service at the end of the day or to get products at the end of the day. So this is very, very interesting too. This is very, very nice. There are different sources of capital, right? I don't want us to, I don't want to take so much time because I noticed that this is almost almost already 11 o'clock already. So, but there are different sources of capital, right? If you look at it, there are capital that you can source. You can source from loans. You can get capital from friends. There are several sources that you can get capital from. You can also even source. You can also even fund some kind of some fund that particular business. Using your own resource, using your own funds. To do things like that. So the idea really is that you are able to get some money to be able to fund some particular project or get machines or get some things in place to help you convert your process into final finished goods or services. So what would you say the reward for capital is? What is the reward for capital? Anybody? Reward for capital? Reward for capital. What would you say the reward for capital is? For land, it is rent. For labor, it is wages or salary. For capital, it is what? Anybody? I see messages dropping. Okay, Jonathan, thank you. I see. Oh, did I see Jonathan? Yes, I saw it. Yeah, you're right. Interest. Interest it is. Interest, because of course, the idea is for you to be able to make returns from it, right? For you to be able to make returns on it. So even if you invest a lot of things, invest in it, you should be able to get something from it, from capital, especially funds. So imagine, Godwin. No, I think, Victor, I think you're mixing it.
Hafiz, are you there?
Hi, sorry, my internet glitched a bit. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now? Thank
Yes,
you
we
very much.
can.
Apologies, my internet glitched a bit. A call came through and it distorted my internet. All right, so like I was saying, right, Victor. So for profit is for another factor of production, right? So, but of course we'll get to that. So usually, if a bank gives you money, if a bank loans you some amount of money, what do you think they charge you on that money? It's interest, and that interest is is the reason why they're giving you that money, because of course that interest is what they will also take as their return for giving you money, right? Even though sometimes some form of funding for businesses might not necessarily come from loans, some can be from, different sources, which some of them might not be interest driven. So for instance, if you're collecting money from relatives and stuff like that, it's really not about interest, right? But the idea really is anybody who is giving you money, the idea is for them to be able to get interest from it, because that's the reward they get for giving you that money at that time. So let's move on. All right. So the next one is entrepreneurship or entrepreneur, and that's the person who collates or puts all of these factors of production together. Usually, these entrepreneurs are people who are driven to make profit at the end of the day, and that's where Victor's comment comes into play. The reward for entrepreneurship obviously is to make profit. No entrepreneur wants to go into business to just go into business for going to business sake. I understand that people even establish non-for-profit businesses, NGOs, and things like that. But even NGOs make money, right? Right. Even NGOs, we understand that non-for-profit and whatnot, but they make money sometimes, because even them also have subsidiary companies. They even have businesses that they run. So for instance, now one NGO can have a school. Schools make money. Right? One NGO can even have a subsidiary organization or subsidiary company that carries out one particular business or the other. They also make profits. So, but the idea really is that somebody was able to collate or put all of these factors of production into place. And then, of course, the idea is also to get profit at the end of the day. So all of these factors of production are, all put together, for a proper conversion of processes and activities, so that profit can be generated at the end of the day. Remember when we started this conversation, I was saying that there are other factors of production that have been introduced into 21st century. Things like technology, things like information, which are very, very key towards factors of production. So for instance, now let's look at technology. You could say technology falls under capital, because if you have money, you have technology. But think about it this way, right? People who, if there are recent technologies that are introduced on a daily basis, right? Recent technology also, you might have money, but you don't have the recent technology in place. It is very, very realistic. You might have money, right? You have money, but of course, the money might not be sufficient to cover the technology that you need to drive a particular business. So you need to be updated. You need to have the recent technology. You need to have ample resources to be able to bring that in, to influence your technology, to influence whatever business or services that you're providing. Let's take Flutterwave, or let's take some of these fintechs company, for example. Sometimes it's not just the money. Sometimes they don't even have the money to put some of those things in place. It's just the mindset to have certain things in place that will help them even improve their operations or help them improve their business as it is. Same thing applies to information, right? You might have money, you might have everything, but doesn't necessarily mean that you have the right information. So you might have money and you're still doing things the way they have been done 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But the right information that you have as of today will help also improve your own business, will also help you knowing how best to approach certain activities or certain businesses, and also help shaping what the future is like, or what the profit margin you'll be making in the future is like. So once again, let's not limit ourselves to 4 factors of production. Remember that in 21st century, there's also going to be technology, there's also going to be information, which also typically helps, drive the success of one business or another. So let's move on. All right. So we've explained land, we've explained labor, we've explained capital, we've explained entrepreneur, we've explained what are the rewards for each of these categories. We've also talked about what are the typical things that you will find in these areas. We spoke about land, we spoke about labor, we spoke about capital, entrepreneur. Land, obviously, is not just the fertile land, but what you can use that land for side production, whatever. It could even be mineral resources, any of those things. Labor too, we've talked about the physical and mental effort. We've talked about how it can also be used, as a determinant, for the success of successful production of a product or a service. Capital too, machinery, finances, and things like that. Entrepreneur too, the person who collates all of these things. So we've spoken in depth about these things and how they, help shape how the, businesses are being run. Once again, always remember that in the 21st century, there are other things that you need to also factor: technology, information, things like that. All right. So we've talked about factors of, we've talked about production, we've talked about the theory, we've talked about the things in it, we've talked about competence level under labor, things like that. So we're now going to markets and market types. I mean, this is 21st century. We wouldn't assume that market is a place where people gather. It is very, very wrong to assume that a market is a place where people gather or where people come and sell certain things. It's a long time ago that people would think that a market is anywhere that you just go and people sell something, and then people, there's a lot of people coming and going, and I mean, not that. A market can actually be anything, yeah, any place, as long as there's a communication between buyer and the seller. So the comfort of your room can actually be a market, because of course you're trying to communicate with somebody, and then the person is responding to you, and then there is communication, and then there is business, right? So anywhere there is business is where the market is. So it doesn't really have to be a physical place where people sell items, people buy items. No. It's actually any place where business happens. So it could be in your house, it could be in your room, it could be in your office. It really could be anywhere. It could even be e-commerce platforms. You could even be in your room, and then having access to some of these platforms, buying, contacting buyers contacting you. It really could be anywhere. So we need to also look at what are the types of market that are in existence as of today. The good thing about globalization now really is that globalization has made everywhere, every and anywhere the marketplace. I can be in Nigeria in a very, very remote place, and I'm ordering for something in China. I can be in Japan ordering for something from Russia. So thank God for globalization, right? That's made many, many things easier. thank God for globalization that we are also having this call, like that. So this is very, very interesting. Like I said, economics is very, very interesting because it's something that you can easily relate to. So there are different types of markets, right? And of course, there are what would you call there are different types of market and how each of these markets operates, right? So maybe I should. Okay, that's fine. Let me just leave it because you guys have seen my screen already. So I wanted to throw it to the house. That what would you think? What would you say is the perfect example of a perfect competition market, or who will explain the perfect competition market to us? But of course, I'm sharing. I'm displaying my screen, so there's no need throwing the question to us anymore. But of course, there are different type of market. I have about six or seven different categories or types of market here. There's perfect competition. There's a monopoly that is obviously very, very popular everywhere. There's the monopolistic competition. There's the oligopoly. There's the duopoly. There's the monopsony. There's the oligopsony. So there are different types of markets, and each of these markets have people who lead, people who buy the more, or people who sell the more, and things like that. But of course, a perfect competition market is a market where there's a lot of buyers, there's a lot of sellers. Everybody's selling, everybody's buying, and everybody's trying to make business happen. The monopoly obviously is now or a situation where there is only one seller, one seller and many buyers. Everybody wants to buy because he is the determinant of what price is. He is the one who dictates how these things go. Things like that. The monopolistic competition is now a situation where there are many sellers. Selling similar items. But of course, the items are a little bit different from one another. So of course, these people are people who they sell identical product, but there's a competition between these people. It's not a situation where one person just determines how these items are being sold, and things like that. The oligopoly in this instance is a situation where there are few large people who are dominating this particular market. This is the instance where we now have, say for instance, the telecommunication industry. You now have people like the top dogs on that market. They are the people who control how those things are being done. The duopoly in this instance is a system where you have only two people who dominate this particular market. Every other person is not as big as they are. They are not really up to the power of these people. So these two people will typically determine how the business should be. The monopsony in this instance is where there is only one buyer and there is many sellers. I'm sure that some of us will have questions around what kind of markets are these. Do we even have some of these people, these markets in existence? I bet you there are. But of course we'll talk about these things in this class. Oligopsony is an instance where there are few buyers that dominate the entire place, and the buyers determine how the market will be. So imagine that I'm the buyer now. So there are many people who are selling, and there are many people who are selling right now, and people who buy from them are no more than two or three. Have you thought about what kind of market that could be? Everybody is selling, but just few people are buying. Maybe two or three or four people are buying from that pool of markets. So even we who are buying are the ones who determine how the business will go. We give the terms to the sellers, and then we agree on how those things will be. We'll talk about all of those things and then seeing how we proceed. All right, so let me throw a question to us here. Excuse me. So let me throw a question. What would you say is a typical example of a perfect competition? Can anybody give me a typical example of what you call a perfect competition? A perfect competition market? A market where they are. I mean, it could be anything, or you could think of anything, you could, as long as it is easily relatable to us. Please don't bring an example that is something that happens in your village and we don't even know what happens in your village and we can't relate. So please give us an example of what you think would be a perfect example of a perfect competition market. A market where, of course, there are many buyers, there are many sellers, and everybody's trying to, make profit at the end of the day. Anybody? Perfect competition. Where is Akindoyin? Where is Jonathan? Where is Victor? Where is Glory? Uh, what would you say is a typical example of perfect competition? Okay. You can unmute your mic, you can unmute your mic, please. Unmute. Don't worry, we will not say your voice is not fine. Please go ahead. Perfect competition market. So while you're thinking about perfect competition, maybe somebody else should be thinking about monopoly too. I mean, those are very, very easy. So it's something that you can easily relate to. Somebody also should be thinking about monopolistic competition. What are the examples that you think fall in that category? Same as oligopoly, same as monopsony, oligopsony, things like that. Think about those things and let's talk about them. What will you say is a typical example of a perfect competition market? Perfect competition market. So let's say, for instance, I'm here to see feedback, but of course, let me give you an instance. So we could say, we could take an example of maybe agricultural products, right? There are many people who sell agricultural products. There are many people who buy agricultural products, farm products, right? It could be anything, it could be food items, it could be, whatnot. Many people sell, many people buy. It's a perfect market where, there are a lot of people who buy, there are people who sell. It could be anything, like I said. It could be, yeah, I see Glory, consumable goods. Yeah. It could be that too, but as long as there are a lot of people who buy, there are a lot of people who sell. That's a perfect example of a perfect competition market. Once again, you can still think about these things through. There are things that are easily relatable to us. So what would you say is the perfect example of a monopolistic market? I mean, this is too cheap. In fact, some of us here already, like let me just say, I want to say that who knows, we probably will have somebody who is related to Dangote on this call already. So, but let's see. Typical example of a perfect, of a monopolistic, a monopoly market. What would you say is a typical example of a monopoly market? Anybody? Please unmute your mic. Unmute. Where is Glory? Where is Shrive? Where is what's her name? Glory, Akindoyin, go ahead. Victor, what would you say is a typical example of a monopoly market? I mean, these are things that are around us, right? These are things that we know about, things that we see every day, What would you say is a typical example of a monopoly market? Anybody? Jonathan, are you there? Covenant, are you there? Victor, what would you say is a typical example of a monopoly market? So if monopoly is tough, what will you now say is a typical example of a monopolistic competition market? Which I think is even more tougher, but I mean, it's something that's easily relatable. I see somebody typing. Who is typing? Let me see. Okay, I see Glory typing. Okay, let's see what Glory will say. So like I said, a perfect example of a perfect competition market are markets where there's a lot of people who buy and sell. Yeah. Oh yes, thank you, Glory. In Nigeria, Dangote Cement, and now PMS, of course, monopoly. Oh yes, you can't even take that away from him. In fact, do you know that you could even say, Victor, you want to say something? Victor, you want to say something?
No.
Okay. All right, no problem. All right, so do you know that you could even say NIPOS is a monopolistic market? Do you know you could say that? Former NIPOS, because I don't know if they are still in existence as of today. I don't know if they are still operating. Is NIPOS still operating? I honestly do not know. But do you know you could say NIPOS is also a monopolistic market? Because, of course, we don't have any other person who is really into that business anymore. Even though I know that we're not into sending and receiving letters anymore, but of course they do some form of logistics too, transporting one particular item to another, to one particular item from one place to another, but NIPOS at some point was a monopolist market, because they are the only ones who manage and determine the prices of some of those things. In fact, it was before NIPOS. It was after NIPOS that we now started having logistic companies, transporting one thing. I know that we still had them even before NIPOS, but they were not as much as that within Nigeria space. Is what I'm saying. But you could also say NIPOS also falls within that category. We could also say the Dangote cement, just like Glory had mentioned. We could also say even the petroleum as at today, which is also another category or another way to look at it. So let's look at things like monopolistic competition market. What would you say are the typical examples of a monopolistic competition market? Now, like I said, this is a market where there are many sellers who are selling identical, very, very related items, but each of them have a little difference from it. So just to save our time, so I think we could also say people like say people like Chicken Republic, we could say people like the KFCs, they fall within that category of a monopolistic competition market. They sell similar items, but each of them have something that differentiates them from others. I don't know if that makes sense. So the Chicken Republic, the KFCs, the Mr. Bigs, all of those things. In fact, you could even see things around what they call these people now. I don't know if you're where are the ladies on? Let me look at this. Where are the ladies in this group? So there are people who there's this business called I don't know if you've heard of House. Is this House of Zara? Has anybody heard of this House of Zara? I think they are I think like a makeup or they sell is it makeup items or all these lady skincare kind of thing. House of Zara. Has anybody heard of them? So you could also say things like yeah, they are like, yo, thank you, Glory. So those are like monopolistic competition market. They are House of Zara. There are other ones also that sell similar things. I think I have something like Kudi Cosmetics or something like that. People always sell all these cosmetic products. That women always patronize one way or another. So those things falls within that category. They sell similar items or sell similar products. But a little things. Just differentiates them from one another. All right, so let's look at the next one. Next one is an oligopoly market. Now, this oligopoly market is now instance where we have few people or few sellers who kind of dominates the market. And this is the area where we have people like the MTN, the Glo, the Airtel, the Nine Mobile. We don't have a lot of telecommunication companies in Nigeria, but we have a few who kind of dominate it. And these people, because they are the dominant figure in this industry, they kind of make it a little bit frustrating for small businesses to come up. So they kind of dictate how these things go. They kind of dictate how the business in that particular industry goes. So all of these telecommunication companies fall within this category. Now, a perfect example of a duopoly would be companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. In the cola industry, right? People who I know we have pop cola now. I think there's something called pop cola or something like that. There are other ones too that might not be as pronounced as Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but you would even say that Coca-Cola and Pepsi dictate the times when it comes to the sale of that particular cola drinks, in the industry. Even though you will say Coca-Cola is even more, more than Pepsi, in terms of market share, in terms of businesses, and things like that. But these two are the dominant businesses in that particular industry. So that falls like like an example within that particular category. Does any other person have any other suggestions on companies as well? In fact, you could even say Dangote Cement and Bua Cement, right? We could say Dangote Cement and Bua. I do not know if those cements that we have that they call elephants as at those days still exist. There's even one they call Sokoto Cement one time, long time ago. I don't know if those ones are still they are still in existence, So, but you could say Dangote Cement and Bua Cement fall within the category of duopoly. You could even say you could even decide to go towards things like airlines to Arik Air, Ibom Air. I don't know. You could say any of those things because it has to be the dominant true, in that particular business as at the time that we're speaking. So those are examples of duopoly. So let's look at the next one. What would you say is a typical example for a monopsony? An instance where there is only one buyer and there are many sellers. What will you say? What will you say is an example of a monopsony market? Now, like I said, this is a market where there are many people. What's it called? There is only one buyer and there are many sellers. So I know that we will be cracking our heads around these things, but there is this thing in Nigeria where military are in charge of getting. So there is an organization, right? There is an organization in Nigeria that is in charge of procuring defense equipment. Now, in this instance, now we're talking about only one buyer and many sellers. Now, in terms of defense equipment, it could be tools or it could be machine. What they call that now? It could be people who manufacture some components of the defense equipment. right? I'm not saying somebody who manufacture guns or manufacture grenade or whatnot, but there are some components that these people, different people manufacture. So it is now the Nigerian government's responsibility to now go to these different people and then buy some of this equipment and then bring it to probably Dicon. Dicon might probably be, I don't know if you're familiar with Dicon. Dicon is like an institution that, produces military equipment. So Dicon might probably buy these items from different people, bring it together, use it to create a defense equipment, probably gun, probably defense vehicles, probably bombs and whatnot. But of course, the idea is that there are different people who sells, and then one person buys from different people, and then collates it, puts it together to form something awesome with it. A perfect example of a oligopsony too is an instance where there are only few people who buy and then there are many people who sell. Say for instance now, let's take a typical example of people, organizations like Cadbury, or people who do or create, make all of these beverages, all these hot beverages, things like that. They go to the market and buy cocoa and other things from people who sell. There are many people who sell these things, but these companies are the ones who are into the production of all these beverages. So not everybody buys cocoa. You will not go to the market to say you're buying cocoa. It is only in these companies that will go and say, okay, let's identify the people who sell some of these what they call materials, or some of these materials like cocoa, and things like that, and then they buy it from them. These people who buy these items from these sellers will determine whether they want this at this particular quality, they want this item to be sold to them at this amount. They are the ones who really, really determine how the sales of these things go, because you who sell it, it's not like you will not see somebody who will buy it too, but it's easier to sell to these people because these people might end up being the people who refine these products to the finished goods, or they buy from you and then they ship it out and sell to the international market, and things like that. But the idea really is to know that there are few people who buy from a general public of people who sell, general group of people who sell, and then the few buyers who buy from these people really, really determine how this item should be bought. Either it should be bought at so amount of money, or it should be sold at so quality, or so ounce of this thing should be sold to them. So these are the people who really, really determine how these things should be sold. I hope there's no confusion. I hope everybody is catching along. I hope there is no confusion anywhere. Do we need clarity in any area? Any questions for now? Thank you, Messi. Thank you, PHCN. Thank you. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Messi. Any questions for now? Any question regarding what we've discussed between 10 a.m. and 11:12? Any question? We talked about production. We've talked about factors of production. We've talked about market. We've talked about types of market. Any question? Any question regarding that? Any question? Anybody? Any question? Any question? We've tried as much as possible to digress and then bring in different things as it relates to the subject of discussion. Any question? Jonathan, question for me. Victor, Glory, any question? Akindoyin, Christian, Covenant, any question for me? You can unmute your mic, please. We're not restricting you to just chatting on the chat room or putting messages on the chat room. You can unmute your mic, please. None from my end. Thank you, Glory. Thank you. Any other person? Question. Any question, please? Okay, so if there are no questions, let's move ahead. All right. So there's something called the production functions, and this really is where we talk about things around cost. Cost really is something that it's something that we need to factor in everything that we do, especially people who are into businesses, businesses that use or convert or process items into finished goods. So it could be you being into a business that really provides products, or you into being into a business that provides services. Please give me a second. Give me a few minutes, please. Just give me 2 minutes. I need to attend something. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry about that. I noticed that my device was not charging and I needed to find what the problem what the problem was, so that it doesn't cut us off. All right, so I was asking earlier if there was any question, and I think Glory said none from her end, and then we went into talking about production functions. All right, so please confirm you can still hear me so that I don't assume and then I'm just talking into the air. Can
Yes,
anybody
we
hear me,
can
please?
hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so I was speaking about production functions, right? And I was saying that one important area that as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs as we are on this call, we can't take away is things around cost. And cost is very, very important, because there is no way that you want to go into a business and you don't want to, factor in what exactly the cost of going into that business will be. There is also no way that you're not going to factor what are some of the things that what are the direct costs that you have in a particular business, what are the indirect costs that would come in, what are the fixed costs that will come into those businesses, what are the costs that are variable, what are the things that you would spend on a short run, what are the things you will spend on a long run, how it will affect your own business. So it is very, very important that we need to talk about or consider this. This is one of the reasons why this is a very sensitive thing, and that's the reason why people assume that economists and accountants are acagums, because they are very, very intentional when it comes to anything cost related. In fact, some people will say that, what, if you want to marry, don't marry an economist person or an accountant because their hands are acagum. But of course, that's not the case, But the idea really is that you need to factor in cost in everything that you're doing. You need to be able to understand how cost affects your business, how cost affects you in the long run as well as in the short run. So really that it's very, very important that you need to be very, very intentional about these things. If you go into a particular business now, how much do you need to be spending on a daily basis to be able to achieve a particular desired result? In the long run, if I spend this amount of money, what is the effect that would be on my business? How will the cost of this thing now affect my own business if I accumulate all of these things in the long run? How does the cost of a particular item, or a process, affect me in the short run? It might end up being that, I need to pay staff salary, I need to pay this, I need to pay that, I need to pay for rent, I need to pay for this, I need to pay for that. These are things that we need to be very, very conscious about and how it really, really affects our business at the end of the day. There are things that you cannot take out, when it comes to talking about cost. You can't take about things around total. You can't take out things like this out. You can't take total cost out, average cost, marginal cost, variable cost. These are things that they call production functions. These are components of a cost, and there is no way that you will talk about economics, you talk about the cost of a particular item or cost of providing a particular service and not factor in some of these things. This is the reason why some people run away from economics, because this is the area where it becomes, a little bit technical calculations come to play, and things like that. And I was mentioning earlier that there is no way that we're going to talk about economics and then calculate one thing or the other. Even though we wouldn't bring things like almighty formula, or bring in equations, or bring in one thing that looks like a pitch, that looks like a tree up and down. But the idea is for us to be able to factor in as business people. What is the total cost of producing one item? What is the average cost per unit of a particular item? How much will I need to pay on an incremental level, for me to know the total cost of a particular item? What are the things that I need to do differently? What are the costs that changes after a while, and how it affects my business? What are the costs that I must pay for? I cannot avoid these things at all. So these are things that we should be able to factor in. We should be able to also know how they affect us. So let's talk about these things, these production functions, one after the other. Let's talk about total cost. Total cost really now is about the total amount of cost that you incur to carry out a particular production or to carry out a particular service. In economics terms, now it now refers to you adding your fixed cost as well as your variable cost together. I'll show us that formula once we as we proceed. But the idea is for you to be able to know that total cost in reality is the total amount of money that you use to produce something or provide some services for some people at a particular period of time. Now, the average cost really in reality too is just you knowing how much it costs you to get one output. So if I say the total cost of producing one commodity is 1,000 naira, it is 1,000 naira. Now, if I produce over 100 commodities, how much do I know that is the cost of one unit of those things? So that's what really the average cost is. Now, the marginal cost is really used knowing what is the incremental cost for me adding one additional variable. If I add one more thing, how much or what? How does it affect the cost of this item at the end of the day? Same thing as variable cost. Variable cost is also called direct cost. It's just you knowing that if I decide to change one item or one material, how does it affect the cost? Fixed cost in this instance is now saying that there are something that you need to spend money for, and you cannot avoid them at all. Things like rent, things like machines, and things like that. There are things that you must pay for. You can't avoid them, no matter how hard you try. So we'll get to the point where we talk about these calculations. We'll talk about this the formulas for these things, and then we proceed. So, all right, this brings me to this point again. Sorry, guys, just 1 minute. My device it's not charging again. Give me a second, please. All right, I'm back. I'm back. All right. So yeah, we're talking about the costs as well as the formulas for each of those costs. So as I was saying, please confirm you can still see my screen. Kindly confirm you can still see my screen, please.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome. So as I was saying, the formula for each of these categories, right, is very, very easy. Now, for you to get the total cost of a particular product or item or service that you're providing, right, it's pretty easy. Just knowing that you need to total your fixed costs as well as your variable costs together. And totaling these two gives you your total cost. Very simple. In economics, like I said, it's just plus or minus, or probably division in certain areas. So to calculate marginal cost really also is just for you to know that you need to know the difference between your total cost as well as knowing the difference between your quantity. We're going to try these things hands-on. We're going to try to do these things and then seeing how it will turn out. These are just basic formulas that we need to put in mind. I would advise that we draft or we write some of these things down. Like I said, we're going to have a hands-on session where we'll have to practicalize some of these things. So please mark these areas that I'm highlighting as yellow, so that once you are imputing some of those formulas in the questions I'm going to bring up in a few minutes, you can translate those things using these formulas. So please get your pen, get your paper, draft these things down, so that once we get to that point, it's very, very easy for you to substitute for the formula for these areas. I hope I'm not already speaking like sometimes people don't like mathematics, so when they start hearing substitute, add, subtract, it's already confusing a lot of people. But I'm sure we're not going to get to that point where we are confused around these things. Like I said, they're very, very easy things that we can calculate from our own end. All right, so coming down to average cost, like I was saying earlier, right? Average cost is really for you to know how much it costs for a particular unit of an item, right? And the formula to get that is just you knowing what your total cost is and then dividing it by your quantity. Once you're able to find what the total cost is, you're able to find what your quantity is, just divide it and then you're getting your answer. Easy peasy. To calculate the variable cost also, you just need to multiply the cost per unit as well as quantity. Like I said, please draft these things down. Once we get to where the questions are, we start to put these things together and then we see the answers at the end of the day. To get your fixed cost, also very easy. Just knowing what your total cost is and then knowing what your variable cost is. And then you subtract both, and that's it. You get your answers too. So pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. Total cost, fixed cost, and variable cost. Putting the two together will give you a total cost. Marginal cost, knowing what the change in total cost is and what your change in quantity is. When I mean change now, it's like saying they will give you a hood. They'll say the total cost for producing this computer as at 2021 is 10,000 naira. The cost for producing this computer as at 2024 is 15,000 naira. So 10,000 minus 15,000 naira, that's the change in total cost, like the difference between those two things. is the total cost. Now, change in quantity now, they will say, as of 2021, we produce 15 pieces of computers. As of 2024, we produce 20 pieces of computer. You see the difference, the change, like the difference in the number, right? So the total cost might be amount, which is probably, I can't remember the example I just gave now, but if a particular figure, but the change in quantity now is 10 and 20. So you take the difference, 5, so you just divide both sides and you're good. Like I said, please just draft these things and then we will go straight into taking an example. Now, where it gets interesting is, even when we have a practical session and we've tried this, we all will also try one on our own. So remember, this is going to be something where everybody will send in their answers. Like I said, this is going to be hands-on, and then we all will be graded and everybody will know the scores at the end of the day. So please draft these things down, because of course you'll be putting your own answers too. So let's go straight to it. Right. I've put 5 different examples according to these 5 different production functions that we have. Remember that we started from here, understanding what these production functions are, understanding how they are being applied, understanding why we are applying them, and the reason why we want to get the answers from them. So we also put the formulas, formulas for each of these areas: total cost, marginal cost, average cost, variable cost, and fixed cost. Now let's go. For the first one, total cost, right? We already have a fixed cost, we have a variable cost. Remember, the formula is saying that you need to add fixed cost plus variable cost. I mean, this is very, very easy. So if you get the answers, if you get this one, which is the fixed cost, this is the variable cost, right? Remember, it is cost, not unit. Cost, not unit. So getting your total cost is now adding fixed cost plus variable cost. So we'll go to the question now. It says, calculate the total cost, where your fixed cost is $500 and your variable cost is 20,000. What am I saying? $20. So it's very, very easy for you to calculate these things. Marginal cost also has its formula too. We're saying it's change in total cost divided by change in quantity. Here you will see that the cost of producing 50 units of an item is $1,500. The total cost of producing 51 items or 51 units of items is $1,520. Now look at it. There's a difference in the total cost. There's also a difference in the units. Remember, the formula was saying that you need to understand or know the change in total cost and the change in quantity. The change in total cost here is $1,500 and $1,520. So the change is 20. The change in this unit now is 50 and 51. So the change is 1. But like I said, we'll try all of this in hands-on, and then of course we'll see how we will interpret it. I hope nobody's lost as at for now. Nobody's lost. Are we together? Ladies and gentlemen, are we together, please? Are we following? Glory, Victor, Jonathan, Covenant, are we following? Christian? Any confusion whatsoever for now? Are we lost anywhere? Don't worry.
No, we are together.
All right, thank you, Victor. Let me hear from somebody else too. Glory, Covenant, any question? Jonathan, Fajana, Kwemi, any question?
Still with you.
Are we lost?
Still with you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, Christian. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so I've been able to put this together here so that it doesn't confuse us a lot. Now remember that we're trying to calculate the total cost, right? And then the fixed cost here is $500. The variable cost here is $20 per unit. Now let me do something that might make it probably easier for us, so that as we're seeing it, we would so let me do this. Give me a second, please. Oh, what did I do? Okay, let me do this. Okay. Give me a second, please. Okay, so that this can be easy for us. All right. Yeah, I think this makes it a bit easier. All right, please let me know once you can see my screen. I hope it's still visible. I hope you're not confused.
It's still visible.
Thank you. So what I did was to take the question and bring it to this slide so that we are able to look at the questions and look at the answers together. I hope that makes sense, so that it's easy for all of us to relate to it, and then we are able to, look at them together. Now, this is the question. The question is total cost. We're trying to calculate total cost, and we're already given that the fixed cost is $500. The variable cost is $20 per unit for 50 units. Now, look at the formula for that. Total cost is equals to fixed cost plus variable cost. We already have our fixed cost, right? And the variable cost we were told is $20 per unit for 50 units. Now, it's very easy for us to just interpret these things. Now, for us to know the fixed cost, of course, it's already given to us. Variable cost is $20 per unit of 50 units. So putting this into the formula now is just for you to say 500, which is the fixed cost, plus 20 multiplied by 50 units, which is the variable cost. Now, the variable cost here is already given to us that 20 per unit of 50 units, meaning that for 50 units, we need to multiply it by 20, and that will probably give us 1,000, right? 1,000. So if the fixed cost is 500, and then the variable cost is 20 multiplied by 50, this will give us 1,000 here, right? It will give us 1,000 here. So 500 plus 1,000 will give us 1,500. I hope there's no confusion anywhere. Easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. Any question anywhere? Easy peasy, right? So for us to get total cost, I come again. For us to get total cost is for us to just multiply the fixed cost plus variable cost. Now, these things are already given. It's just for you to put these things into the formula. Now, the fixed cost, like I said, is $500, which is already given. The variable cost, now you are told that the cost per unit is $20 and you have 50 units. It's just like you saying that the cost of one particular biscuit is 20 naira and then you have 50 biscuits. Now you have the carton. Multiply that. How much will that be? So multiplying 20 by 50, you get 1,000, which should be in this bracket, right? So 500 plus 1,000 will give you 1,500, right? Okay, so that's for total cost. Easy peasy. Now, the second one is the marginal cost. The marginal cost now is saying that, this is the formula. There's a change in total cost divided by the change in quantity. Remember, I was saying it somewhere here. I was saying the change in marginal cost is change in total cost divided by change in quantity. So this brings us back to the question. Now, the question here says the total cost for producing 50 units is $1,500. The total cost of producing 51 units is $1,520. Easy peasy. Putting this into the formula. What is the difference between the total cost? Which means that there is a difference between 1,005 and 1,520, right? I hope that's clear. I hope it's very, very clear. What is the difference between this cost that was given to us? Now, if you put that in the formula, 1,520 minus 1,500 divide by what is the change in total quantity? 51 minus 50. Look at it. 51 minus 50. Ideally, this should give you 20 divided by 1. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? Anybody? Am I making sense? Is this easy for you to understand? Is it complicated somewhere? Is it complex somewhere? Is this understandable? Please give me feedback. Anybody, please give me feedback. Are we together? Are we together? Glory, Jonathan, Kristen, are we together, please? Victor, I think Victor is out. Are we together? All right. So 1,520 minus 1,500. All right. Thank you very much for your feedback. Thank you. Divide by 51 minus 50, right? So you will typically have 20 divided by 1, because if you subtract 1,520 minus 1,005, you get 20. Now, 20 divided by 1 is the same thing as saying 20, because 20 divided by 1 really is still the same figure, right? So that's the formula for calculating marginal cost. Now, for average cost, remember I said that there's a formula for that too, which is total cost divided by the quantity. This is it, total cost divided by quantity. So same thing here applies. You are given the total cost to be 1,500. You are given the quantity to be 50. Easy peasy. You just divide 1,500 divided by 50, and then you already have your answer. Easy peasy. Like it's very, very easy and not complex at all. So I take it again one more time, so that we look at it and then we look at the next questions, the variable cost and fixed cost. To calculate the total cost, it has its formula: fixed cost plus variable cost. You're giving your fixed cost, you're giving your variable cost. Just add two together. Easy peasy. Marginal cost, knowing the difference between your total cost and then the difference in quantity, dividing the both of them. Now, if you have marginal cost to be 1,520 minus 1,005, you have 20. Divide by the difference in units, which is 1. 20 divided by 1 gives you 20. Easy peasy. Same thing as the average cost too, right? We already given our figure for total cost to be 1,500. Divide by the quantity, which is 50 units. Divide both, you have 30 units. Easy peasy, like I mentioned earlier. All right, so let's look at the calculation for variable cost as well as fixed cost. Remember that we all here will also have to try in ours. I will give a question and then you have to calculate the question and then put in your answer, and then we all look at it together. Now let's calculate for variable cost as well as fixed cost. Let's calculate for variable cost as well as fixed cost. Now look at the question. We're told that the variable cost what's it called now? For total cost per unit is $20. Quantity is 50 units. Now the variable cost, like I said, also has its own formula, and it's cost multiplied by quantity. The only thing we want to do here is just multiply 20 by 50, and we already have our answer. Easy peasy, like nothing difficult there. Cost per unit multiplied by quantity. We're already giving the cost per unit as $20. We're already giving the quantity as 50 units. You just multiply both and then have this. Once again, like I said, the importance for this is just for us to be able to know how cost affects us, what is the exact cost we're getting per unit for one particular item that we've produced or or providing as a service to anybody. It's very, very important that we understand these things as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that we are. So the last question is to calculate fixed cost. Calculating fixed cost is also very simple. Just know what your total cost is, know what your variable cost is, and subtract it. That's all. So we're already giving our total cost to be $1,500. We're already giving our variable cost also to be $1,000. Now, to calculate this is just subtract the total cost from variable cost. Total cost is $1,500. Variable cost is $1,000. Subtract both and you already have 500. Like easy peasy. No simple, no long story. Very, very easy. So at this point, I would like to ask if there's any question. If there is none, I'm going to display one that we all will have to try on our own, and then we'll start to put the answers into the chat room. So any questions? Any question for now? Any question regarding formula? Any question regarding what we've discussed regarding cost? And then if there's any place that we need clarity on, we can provide clarity on that area. Akindoyin, Jonathan, Glory, no questions, right? We're good. No question. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let me put up the classwork so that we all try from our end. Like I said, you could use your computer, you could use your phone, you could use a calculator that's close by, and then start to put the answers in the chat room. So this is the question. Let's try it. This is the question. We need to all try this and then start to put the answers in the chat room. It's very, very similar to what was done earlier, right? Very, very similar to what we have tried. Like I said, it's good for you to have the formula drafted somewhere. So you know what, let me do this for us. Let me put this formula on that slide, so that you could translate the formula into what you're doing. Give me a second, please. Please confirm that you can see the questions. Confirm that you can see the questions. All right, gentlemen, the time starts now. Please put the answers in the chat room so that once we are done, we all will revise or review the questions together, put the answers in the chat room, and then I believe we can now go for break by 12 o'clock. Now, please, gentlemen and ladies, your time starts now. please calculate the total cost. As you calculate the total cost, please put the answer in the chat room. Write total cost is equals to so answer. Also calculate the marginal cost. Please write marginal cost. The answer is so dash and dash, whatever the answer is. Calculate the average cost too, which is also very simple. Once you've calculated it, put the answer in the chat room. Variable cost too, same thing. Fixed cost too, same thing. Please, the time starts now. We have 10 minutes to do this. I think 10 minutes is even too much, but we have 10 minutes to do this, and then we can review it, and then we can go for break. Please, your time starts now. I'm going to call everybody's name, and everybody needs to put their answers in the chat room, please. So let's begin. Ojo, I see your hands up. Christian, please go ahead. Christian, do you have a question for me? Oh, I think we lost him. I think he has gone off. Okay. All right. Have the answers started dropping in the chat room? Please, I need to get everybody's answers. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's have it. Let's have it. So while you're doing it from your end, I'm also doing mine, so that we're all on the same page. I'm sure this isn't rocket science at all. This is something that is easy peasy. I thought I saw somebody chatting, typing in the chat room, but that's fine. Let's do this. So by 11:51 or 52, I'm going to ask everyone. We're going to treat the answers together. But before then, I expect that everybody should put their answers in the chat room. Everybody. Thank you very much. So the good thing now also is that I've put the formula for you on that same slide, so it's easy for you to just interpret it. So you just take the formulas and then interpret it. I hope there's no challenge anywhere. Please, as you get your answers, put them in the chat room. Nobody's putting their answers. What's going on? Put your answers in the chat room, please. I'm sure by now somebody should be done getting all of these things together. Is anybody done? Is anybody done? Ah, nice, nice. I see people's message on the group. Thank you, Akindoye. Please put the remaining answers as we proceed. Fajana, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Oh, thank you. We have amazing people on this group, on this call now. We have experts already. We have cost experts already on this call. Why are we even talking about it anymore? We should just close the class and everybody go home. We should just close the class and everybody should just go home. We have cost experts, production cost experts on the call. Yeah, so please try to put the answers in. Please, thank you. Thank you so much, Akindoyin, Covenant, Opeyemi, Fajana. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Please continue. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure by now some of us are already done, calculating these things already, but let's just put the answers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, how's it going? How is it coming? Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Oh, nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So we have let me see how many minutes we have. Mm, we have about 3 minutes to go. 3 minutes to go. For those who are yet to drop their answers, we were waiting for them. So let me see. We are yet to get answers from Glory. Glory, we're yet to get answers from you. Is she here? Yes, she's here. Glory, we're yet to get answers from you. We're yet to get answers from who else? I can't see Victor anymore. I think he's gone off. Um, who else? Who else? Okay. All right. So 2 more minutes, please. 2 more minutes, and I think we can try the answers on our collectively, and then we can go on break. But amazing work, guys. Amazing work. You guys are really doing it. Thank you so much. So 2 more minutes. One more minute. One more minute. One more minute. One more minute. Okay. All right. So let's do this together. Let's do this together. So let me see what everybody has contributed in the chat room. Nice. Covenant. Nice. 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 Okay. So let me start from the beginning. Let me see. Start from the top. Let me start from the top. The top. Akindoyin. Okay, so Akindoyin says the total cost is 5,200. Does anybody agree? Akindoyin says it's total cost is 5,200. Okpeyemi too, same thing. Okay. Okay. Fajana says his total cost is 100. Interesting. Covenant says our total cost is 105,000. Interesting. Okay, so let's do this together, right? Guys, let's do this together. So where's my screen? All right, so this is very, very easy, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is very easy. So let me do this. How do I do this now? Let me do this. Okay, so that we can all see to not that. Let me add. Let me see. Oh, not see. I don't really want you. Okay, can I see a blank one? Yeah, blank. Okay, so let me do this. Give me a second, guys. Do this like this. Put this here. Move it. Go off designer. No. Now the reason why I'm doing this is so that we could try it hands-on, put the answers together, and then yeah, we're all on the same page. Okay, so for total cost, right? It's very easy. So let's see. We already said the formula for total cost. Where did he go? Where did he go? Yes, total cost. Right. So we already said the formula for total cost is already here on the screen. Total cost is equals to fixed cost minus variable cost. What is our fixed cost? Our fixed cost is 5,000, right? Plus variable cost. What is our variable cost? Our variable cost is the multiplication of the $200 per unit multiplied by 500 units. Remember, we were saying that if $200 is the cost per unit, and we already have 500 units, for you to get the variable cost, you just to multiply the $200 you have by 500 units. I don't know what I'm saying makes sense to you, right? So you will now have 200 multiplied by 500, right? In reality, what you will now have as answer will now be 5,000 plus what you have here now would be 100,000. Guys, does that make sense? So what you now have in reality as answer will now be 100,000. And what am I doing? 105,000. So that's really what the answer is for the total cost. I hope it's not confusing. I hope it didn't confuse anybody. I think what the confusion was for most people were they just assume that the variable cost is $200. It's not $200, $200 per unit. And you have 500 units. So you just to multiply 200 multiply by 500, and then you get the 5,000, and then you get the variable cost, and then that is what we have done here. All right, so let's move to the next one. Let's calculate for marginal cost. Oh, what did I do? Let's calculate for marginal cost. Oh, no, not you. I want to duplicate you. Can I duplicate you? No, so let me just create another one. Okay, so let's get for marginal cost. Marginal cost. Okay, so I'm sure we've seen where we got it wrong, right, for most of us. So to calculate the marginal cost is pretty easy to just understand what the change in total cost is according to the formula here that we have. Remember, I had to put this here so that it's easy for us to interpret this, right? So the formula for calculating marginal cost is the change in total cost by the change in quantity. We already have our change in total cost, which is 20. If you see here, 1,720 minus 1,700, right? All divide by, okay, so let's just say is equals to 20, right? So we now have what they call it now, the change in units. We have 71 minus 70, which really will just give us 1, right? So ideally, we're supposed to have 20 divided by 1, which still gives us the answer to be 20. So your actual answer here should just be 20, right? So I'm sure a lot of us actually got this one, right? Right, so let's get the next one. Let's calculate for, nice, I was able to duplicate that. Okay, let's calculate for average cost now. Average cost. Average cost, right? So we already mentioned that the formula for calculating average cost is total cost divided by quantity. We're already given our total cost to be 2,500. All divided by the quantity, which is 50, right? 2,500 divided by 50. So if you do that, what will you have? I think it will give you 50. 2005 divided by 50 should give you 50, and that's the answer for calculating average cost. Let me go back to the chat room to see how many of us actually got that. A lot of us actually got that. Yeah. In fact, everybody got that. Everybody actually got that. So let's go back to the questions. Right. So let's calculate the variable cost now. Variable cost. Easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. Very, very simple. Just for us to be able to interpret the formula and then put the answers in it. To calculate the variable cost is just to multiply cost per unit by quantity. We already have cost per unit, which is 200, multiplied by quantity, 500, right? So your answers really here will just be 100,000. Let's go back to the chat room to see how many of us actually got it. I want to believe almost everybody got it too. Yep. 100,000. Yes. All right, let's go back to the question. So let's calculate for fixed cost. Calculating fixed costs, very easy too. It's just for us to know what the total cost is and subtract variable cost out of it. So from the formula here, total cost minus variable cost. We have our total cost here as 15,000 minus the variable cost, which is 10,000, right? Yeah. And then the answer here will probably just give us 5,000. Not probably, would actually give us 5,000. Actually give us 5,000. So let's go back to the chat room to see how many people got it correctly. Okay. Chat room. Yep, $5,000. 5,000. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your contribution. I mean, you guys are amazing. Yes, subscribe. Thank you. 5,000. Yes. So you can see how easy these things are. It's just for. I'm not saying that there are no instances where cost can be complicated to calculate. I'm not saying that. I'm also just saying that, it makes sense for you to be able to know how best to be able to interpret it, especially once you know how they are being calculated. So there are instances where you will have to fetch out what the variable cost is. You have to fetch out what the fixed cost is. We have to fetch out what the average cost is, for people who are into production. It might not really apply for people who are into service, especially calculating average cost. But for production, you are able to calculate it to know the cost per item or per unit of any particular commodity that you're producing. So it just makes sense for us to be able to be verified, for us to be familiar with how these things have been calculated, and then we are good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I think it's break time now. So we'll probably come back here. Not probably. We will definitely come back here in 30 minutes, and then we'll start to talk about things around law of diminishing returns, law of variable proportions, and things like that. So let me not take so much creep into the break time. Let's just leave it at this, and then once we're back from break, we will continue from there. Gentlemen, thank you so much. You guys have been very, very amazing. You've been awesome. Thank you for all your contributions. To see you in 30 minutes. Messi, over to you, man. Messi, are you there? All right, thank you, Covenant. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, see you in 30 minutes. Thank you.
Hafiz, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I sent you a message that you should run through since it's remaining a little bit to round up the class. So there's no need going for a break. All right.
Okay. All
Yes,
right,
I
that's
sent you
fine.
a message. Yes.
Oh,
Thank you
okay.
so much.
Fine.
Please, everyone, please stay put. Thank you so much.
Aha. All right, that's fine. No, no problem at all. No problem. All right, gentlemen. So I mean, nobody's running away from me. I mean, and I'm not running away from anybody. We're all together. We're all in this together. So let me share my screen again. So really, just like she had mentioned, we really don't have much to, we really don't have much to cover from the class. We can just quickly run through the rest of the areas, and then we are good to go. Like I said, the good part is that, kindly confirm you can still see my screen. It's not moving. Okay, it's moving now. Like I said, the good part is that economics is very, very fun. It's very, very relatable. We're all there are things that we can notice from our everyday life and activities that that we are in, or things that happen around us, so to speak, right? So quickly diving into it. There's something called law of diminishing returns, right? And it's pretty simple. It's just for us to be able to understand why this thing is done, what exactly it is, why do we need to even study it, why does it even affect us, things like that. So really the thing now is that there's always a repercussion on something that has been carried out. Every actions that we do, always have I won't say repercussion, but there's always something that follows suit. So for instance, in production, now I'm not talking about in other instances. I'm talking now in business. I'm talking now in production terms. I'm talking now in services that we also provide, right? So let's take, for instance, now, this law of diminishing returns now is just saying that, if you add an additional variable to something, there's always going to be a reaction. If you add a particular variable to a fixed variable, and you're already getting returns, after a while, you're not going to get output anymore. You're not going to get anything from that. My point now is that, say for instance, now you have a farm, right? And you have let's say 10 workers on that farm, or 10 laborers on that farm. Now that farm is already giving you proper outputs. It's yielding so many things. Now that farm has a what they call that thing now, has a measurement. Let's say 50 by 50 farm, a farmland of 50 by 50, and you have 10 workers or 10 laborers, and they are working for you on that farm. Now, do you think if you add an additional person to that farm, it makes a difference? Hold on before you answer. Do you think if you add an additional person to the 10 that are already working on that farm and is already giving you optimal capacity, or you're working at optimal capacity, or it's giving you higher output, do you think that if you add an additional person to that farm, it will give you even more yield? It won't give you more yield, because you already have about 10 people who are working on that farm. The farm is already giving you output. Now, having an additional person on that farm is waste of money, because you're just having that person who is just redundant. He's not helping you achieve more output, because the farm is already working at a particular capacity. And the capacity is that you already have 10 people who are working, every person working in one area or the other. Now, if you are bringing this person in, this person will either reduce the amount of time that each person is doing on a particular portion, or you have to reshuffle, those people and then cut down on the time that they are supposed to spend on the production of one particular item. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense to you. Now, the law of diminishing return is just saying that the more you add an additional variable to a fixed variable, which is already giving you a particular return, that output that you're getting, after a while, it starts to diminish because you're not getting the right, you're not putting the right number of people on a particular the particular production unit, and then the more people you're getting starts to get a diminishing return, meaning that the more variable that you add to a particular fixed cost, fixed variable, output will definitely start to diminish because you're not using the right number of people on that particular activity. It's very, very easy it happens in our everyday life. It's just like we saying now that as I'm taking this course now, you now have another person who is also taking this particular course as we speak. It doesn't make any difference, does it? Because one person is already taking that course and the output is already there. You're already seeing the output, What difference does it make when there's another person in the background shouting, yes, he says so. Law of diminishing return is like, the return and output going to get definitely will diminish because you're not getting that right result, you're not getting that right outcome because you've added more variable to the variable that is actually supposed to deliver on that area. So I hope I'm making sense. So that's in simple way the way to explain diminishing returns, because it just doesn't make sense to add. But sometimes there are certain decisions that we take in businesses and we just think that maybe it will help, but we're not thinking about how to help us, or help the business in the long run. Sometimes you think you're helping your business, but at the end of the day, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're paying extra. You're paying for an extra person to work for where is not needed. Does that make sense? So now the question now that we should ask ourselves is, why do we need to study these things? Really, the reason why you need to study or understand law of diminishing returns is for you to be able to know how best to be able to, diversify, put the right resource in the right areas that is required. Why do I need to know this? I need to know this because if I'm today leading a production company and then I know that I have ample staff, I have enough already who are handling this, instead of putting that extra person on this particular production unit, I can take that person and put him in another production unit, and then I start to see results from that person's activities. But it doesn't make sense now for me to now take one person and add to a place that I already know that I'm getting value from. It doesn't make sense. So it makes sense for us to be able to know this because of proper diversification, proper allocation of resources, also for us to be able to understand how to use workforce. If we know that we have total number of people who are delivering value, let's know how best to apportion these people, and then we're able to see value from it at the end of the day. So, in a nutshell, that was law of diminishing returns speaks about. Now, the next one that is also very, very similar to law of diminishing returns is law of variable proportion. Now, this variable is this law is saying that it's very, very similar to the law of diminishing returns, but this law is just saying that the more you also add an additional maybe the more you also add an additional variable to a fixed cost, right? At first, the value will increase or the output will increase. But after a while, when that value or output increase, it starts to diminish. Now, get the difference. For marginal utility, for diminishing marginal returns, this one is saying that you already have people who are working in capacity and the capacity is already full, and you're working. But variable proportion is saying that you started from a particular level, you've not reached capacity. Guys, listen, you started from a particular level, you've not reached capacity, but you are adding one more person. Say, for instance, now I started a production farm, same thing as the farm I gave explanation with earlier. I started with this farm, same size, same everything. Now, I started with 2 farmers or 2 laborers. As I added the 3rd laborer, what do you think will happen? The yield will be more because, of course, it is under capacity and we are growing. I added the 4th person. Of course, I'm going to get more output, right? I added the 5th person. Of course, I'll get more output. Now, it gets to the point where I add the 10th person. I've gotten to capacity, right? I'm adding 1 person, I'm seeing the value. I add the 11th person. Now, I've gotten to the point where I've already gotten output. Now, the output is diminishing. Now, this is just the difference between this and the previous one is that this one grows incrementally, right? The other one, you're already on capacity and then it just diminishes straight away. But now this one is saying you're growing incrementally. It gets to a stage where, you're growing, your output increases. After a while, it gets to a point where it doesn't move at all. Like your output does not, it doesn't go up, it doesn't come down because you're just at a fix. And the more people you are adding or the more out variable you are adding, it gets to the point where you start to get even negative returns. Now, so for instance, in the farm that we already have 11 people using this particular law, we have 11 people and then we decided to add 2 more people, making them 13. What do you think will happen to the output? Output will start to diminish, right? We even start to get negative returns. Now, this is very, very similar to the previous law. The only difference is that this law is saying that you're starting from a particular level and you're increasing incrementally, right? While the other one, you're already at output level, you're already at capacity. Adding an additional person will obviously diminish the thing. But this is saying that there are 3 categories or 3 things that happen. First, you will increase in your capacity. Second, you get to the point where you're not going up, you're not going down. And the third capacity and the third level is that you start to get to a level where you start to, output starts to become negative, gives you negative return. So these are the 2 differences between this law, the differences actually between the law of diminishing returns and the law of variable proportion. Now, once again, why should we understand? Once again, why should we understand this law? It's very, very easy. Same thing as the initial law. We need to understand these things because we need to be able to put actual resources in the actual places. Putting around square pegs in square holes, or how do they say those things? Putting that, no, yeah, putting square pegs in the is it square holes, or how do you say those things? Round square pegs in round holes, or how do you say those things? But the idea is putting the right people in the right places and then you seeing and getting the returns at the end of the day. So also, you will notice that this is very, very similar to one of the issues that we're having in Nigeria today, which is where we have this bill, what they call that in now, where most of these northern governors and northern leaders are having issues with tax reforms. Tax reforms. It's very, very easy because it's just like you saying that you're not putting enough work towards the output that you're getting. Say for instance, now Lagos State is contributing a lot towards tax, and then Lagos State is even getting higher. I'm talking about the new tax reform policies now. Government is saying that the more Lagos State gives what's it called now tax, it gets its returns even more. For states that are not able to even contribute more, they are not even going to get more. So it's encouraging that you need to be able to put more effort, get more resources, get more tax submitted to the federal government, and then you are not able to get more returns to it. The idea really now is for you to be able to appropriately portion your resource, putting the right people in the right places, getting the right returns at the end of the day, and then of course getting the desired output at the end of the day. So pretty much these are the differences between the what's it called now? These are the differences between the law of diminishing returns as well as the law of variable proportion. Now, one very, very interesting policy or one very, very interesting theory that we also need to understand is the theory of profit maximization. We discussed theory of equilibrium, during the last class, but of course, the theory of profit maximization is just saying that there are certain people that every business as of today is out there in order to make profit. It's just that most times there are instances where people make will we say abnormal profits? Yes, abnormal profit is the word. People make abnormal profits. Everybody obviously go into business to be able to make profits, but there are instances where people, make abnormal profits. Now, the idea of going into business obviously is to make profits, right? But before you also make profits, you as a business person, you as the entrepreneur, you as the aspiring entrepreneur, you need to also know what are the things I need to put in place before I make profit, right? You need to know what are the things you need to spend on before the profit starts to come in. Nobody will want to go into business without clear sight on how the money is going to come in. You know how the money is going to be spent, but you also need to know how the money is going to come in. And you also need to know where to invest in, where not to invest in. Now, the reason why some people make a lot of profit in certain areas is because of certain things that they take advantage of. People like the Dangotes of today, they are taking advantage of what they call economic of scale. Because he's a business person, he wants to invest his money in a particular area so that he can get a lot of profit from doing so. Nobody will want to go into a particular area and there is no clear sight of making profit. Some people will want to go into a particular business because they know that they can take advantage of certain opportunities that comes their way. So in this particular theory, it makes sense for us to be able to understand what profit maximization is, why people are going into going to business, and of course, the reason is for them to be able to make profit. You can't take away the fact that people need to know the actual cost and then knowing that what the returns will be at the end of the day. You can't also take away that, of course, doing or talking about this theory, some people obviously will make profit, some people will make abnormal profit, which is normal. The instance where people make supernatural or I say supernormal profits, are instances where people take advantage of a particular situation. Say they probably are maybe a conglomerate company, maybe a company that is multinational. It is almost impossible for them not to make profits beyond, because you are everywhere, and then of course you are taking advantage of several business opportunities or several market that is available to you. So the Dangotes, like I mentioned earlier, is that one of the advantage that people like that take is because of probably technological access to technological advanced opportunities that they have. So if I'm a Dangote, obviously, right now, one of the things that I'm going to do in order to make so much profit and kill the market is for me to introduce something that others cannot match up to. Say, for instance, somebody was saying something about PMS. He's somebody who obviously will make a lot of profit when it comes to petrol, oil, right? Because he has invested a lot and he has seen a clear sight on how the money will come back to him. Forget the fact that he has made a lot of money, he has invested a lot of money into that. But the kind of money he's going to see from that thing back, give him 5 years. It's not small, it's not a small money, So these are things that, we need to understand why people do these things and how it affects how it affects everybody in general. Like I said, not just Dangote now. You can also look at people like the telecommunication industry. One of the reasons why these telecoms people now take advantage of this. Okay, there's something now called, I can't remember the word now, but it's one thing that these telecommunication people do that allows them to provide data services to people to their clients at the end of the day. Now, for instance, now if MTN, for instance, now establish maybe a max or something that I don't know, maybe like a max, right? That allows other telecommunications companies to tap from that max. You realize that they're establishing it not just for themselves, to provide services to their clients, and also to ensure that other telecommunication companies leverage on that max, because sometimes it's not just MTN that has that max. Sometimes a collaborative approach between them and other people, but other people are subscribing to the use of that max. But the idea now is that they are making profits from their clients, which is their customers, you and I. They're also making profit from other telecommunication companies that have subscribed to the use of that max that they have planted in different areas. So the idea really is just knowing how best to put your right resources and funds in a particular area, and then you seeing profit from it. Now, you will see the natural profit from establishing that max will probably be the profit from, that they get from you and I, the end consumer. But the addition of the profit that they get from other subscribers, like other telecommunication companies, is not just the normal profit now. It's like an addition to it. So it makes sense that we as aspiring entrepreneurs or business people to take advantage of things like this. During the last session or something like that, we're also sharing something around DSTV's monopoly on that threat, because federal government is already saying that they want to establish, an indigenous TV network, because to cripple the profits that some of these people make, from the services that they provide. Obviously, everybody knows that DSTV is making a lot of money from Nigeria. DSTV, GoTV, and all of those services that they are providing, it got to a point where I think there was a bill that was passed that they should make it what they call that now, per station, pay per station or something like that, pay as you go or something like that, because you agree with you and I, you agree with me that once you subscribe for DSTV, it's not like you're watching everything there. You are not watching everything, but you are compelled, you're you have been forced to pay for the entire subscription. But if you get to a point where you're paying for the services that you get, it reduces the profit that these people get. You also provide value for us at the end of the day. So as economic students, we should be able to understand these things and how it affects businesses, and really understanding that the right resources need to be put in the right place for value to be gotten at the end of the day. So let's quickly go to the next point, or the next area, which is the factor affecting the location of industries. Remember, from the course of this study, we started from the economics, what economics is. We talked about what they call it now. We talked about factors of production, production function and everything. We talked about scope of economics, price theory, understanding theory of production. And now we're talking about the factors affecting the location of industry. So this is the last part where we need to just discuss around what exactly is the factors affecting, industries, how they affect businesses, how government comes into play, like that, as we proceed. All right. So give me a second to bring that up. Right. So there are many factors that affect the regulation of industries, right? So many things affect industries. The location of industries, I meant to say. So many things affect the location of industries. First, I mean, it could be technological. It could be what's it called now? It could be manpower. Say for an instance where you have a lot of unskilled labor that you can take advantage of. One of the reasons why India, one of the today is one of the biggest, India and Asia generally, right? It's one of the largest. You have a lot of industries there, is because of the availability of manpower. They can take advantage of their numbers, to make a lot of things happen. One of the reasons why people are also coming to Nigeria too to take advantage is also the number of unskilled labor and number of people that we have as resource that you can use. There are so many things that affect the location of industry. Another thing also that can affect the location of industry or influence the location of an industry is availability to raw materials. So, if, for instance, now the reason why Dangote's established his own business at Ajakuta, of course, is the proximity to raw materials that is available at their feet. Also, the reasons why all of these oil companies also are in Port Harcourt is because of the availability of raw materials, that is available to them at that particular location. Like I said, sometimes it's not just the raw materials; it also can be human resource. It can be anything that will drive people towards that particular place. Also, you can also think about it in terms of technology, right? One of the reasons why people are establishing in technological driven countries is because of the access to technology that they have in that area. Some people are leaving Nigeria because there is no technology. Let me not lie to you. Some people are also coming to Nigeria because of the technology that we have. Do you know that in some African countries you cannot make transfers, you cannot make bank transfers like the way you and I are making transfer up and down using OPay, using Money Point, PalmPay, and the rest? Some African countries do not have that. Some other countries you can't even transfer money like that. Some other countries, you need to pay cash for everything that you do. So some African countries, African companies are coming into Nigeria because of the advantage that they can take from these particular things that is available to them. Nigerians are also leaving this country because of frustration of no proper technology in place. Some are taking advantage of the technology that other countries are providing to them. So there are so many things that affect the location of industries in different areas. Once again, we cannot talk about those things without talking about some of these things that I have mentioned. Technology and innovation. People obviously will jump from one place to another because of that. Market structure. Sometimes too, if you do not have a proper market, if you realize that this place there's a monopoly in this market, do you think somebody will want to stay in a place where he's not going to get product and services? Obviously not. So they obviously will want to go to a place where they have a lot of advantage and opportunities that they can take. Do you know that also Dangote has established his own cement companies in other countries too? There are other advantages that he has seen, or some of the other benefits that he has seen in other African countries, that makes him establish his business in those areas too. So there are so many things that we need to look at, and how they affect businesses or industries. This should be 4.2, not 3.2. So like I said, so many things can affect. There's raw materials, there's labor, which is everything that we've seen. There's also access to communication. Also, like I mentioned earlier, companies are leaving the country. Sometimes it's operational cost that chases these people out of the country. So if we realize that the cost of operation in Nigeria is not funny at all, do you think anybody will want to continue despite that? Some people get frustrated. Some international companies have left the country. I read recently people saying, or Tinubu saying that, he wants to bring in some other international companies back into Nigeria. People that are leaving the country, international companies are leaving the country, and you are bringing others in. What have you done in place? This is not to talk politics or anything, but before you can bring somebody in to say, okay, come and invest in this country, you need to have put some things in place that has made other people run away, so that those other people who are coming in can stay. Am I making sense? So there are so many things that influences these things, and these are things that we see in our everyday life. Transport and communication network. There are some places that cars cannot even pass. You can't. They're not motorable. How do you now transport you who wants to provide services or products to a particular region, and the transportation network is crippled? How do you want to do that? It obviously will affect you, and then you have to go to a place where it's easy for you to do business because of the proper road network available to you. Same thing as government policies. They can be things that will affect your own business too. Say for instance, now in the north, obviously you cannot sell. Not that you cannot sell. People are selling alcoholic now, alcohol, and things like that. But of course, there is a limit to it because of the policies within that particular region, or within that particular area. Same as pork also. People in the north really do not partake from it, except other non-Muslims also who take advantage, of things like that. So different things can really happen and affect businesses. It's just for you to now know which one is a lesser threat to you, and then if you have the appetite for that issue, if you have the appetite and you feel that you can stay, then of course, why not? If you feel that the value you're going to get is lesser than the challenge that will obviously come, then of course, why not? Who stops you? You can do that, but once you see that you do not have the appetite for the risks that you have, then obviously you need to avoid it and go to a place where you can take advantage of the opportunity that comes your way. Same thing as fuel and power. Obviously, with the increase in the cost of fuel and electricity, most people have left the country. Recently I was also hearing about this. There's this content creator that travels around, and then I can't remember this guy's name now, but he's a travel guy. He travels, makes document things about things that he has seen, he has noticed. The guy said he has relocated to Portugal. The guy relocated to Lisbon, because he felt like fuel was what's it called, power was a challenge for him in Nigeria. He can't make content in Nigeria. In fact, things are frustrating him. So people within that particular category of industry will obviously feel the same thing too, and they will feel that, what, if there's no constant electricity, power alone serves is a challenge. Buying fuel at 1,200 per liter, how many liters do you want to buy in a day for you to develop your content, make the editing, upload? How much do you want to get from it? Right now we're also hearing things around content creators to be charged. I think there's a fee or levy. I think they need to be paid. Come. I don't know if it has started or it's starting next year. I don't know, but of course, content creators also need to pay a particular tax. So all of these things are things that sometimes frustrate and cripple an industry, and people just decide that, what, I can't deal. I need to leave. I need to find another place where I can take advantage of these things that comes my way. So there are so many things that we need to put in that back of our mind, and then of course seeing how we can take advantage of things like that. Also, there's something called merger and acquisition. So this is also something that we as economic students should know. We should understand what it means. We should know how it works, how it applies, and how it affects businesses in the long run. It is almost at some point in time, as a business person, you need to think about probably merging with another business if you get to the point where you realize that you are not able to fund your business anymore. You are not able to meet up with the daily operational cost. You're not also able to meet the required targets that you've established that you want to do. At some point, you obviously will think that, what, I need to merge with another company that will definitely help boost our business, in one way or another. There are different types of mergers, of course, merger and acquisitions. In fact, some are hostile, total buyout. They just buy the entire company, because it doesn't look like it doesn't look like the business is doing well at all. Sometimes when you merge with another business, you probably will have maybe 49%, and then the other business has 51, control of that over the business. But you who has 49 will not, you cannot say beyond who somebody who has 51% of ownership of the business than you. So it just literally means that that person makes the decision for that business, and things like that. So really, merger refers to the instance where two companies come together, the both of them want to merge, collate all their resources, collate all the businesses that they have together in order to meet up a particular target, or for them to take advantage of the resource that they both have, and then form one particular company. Acquisition, on the other hand, refers to the instance where one company buys another company. You understand? One company gains control of another company. Sometimes this, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes gaining the control could be in different ways. Some can be, hostile, where they just buy everything and there's nothing you can do about it. Some gives you some form of ownership towards the business. But it's important that we need to also understand different levels of these mergers and acquisition, right? Some can be horizontal. Horizontal in this instance is just saying that, the products, companies that have similar products and services come together, so that they can expand, and then of course they can have proper offering to the market. They can even comb and conquer together, I think the typical example is the Habib. I think is it the Habib Bank and Heritage or something like that. They came together. There was a proper merger and on that. So is it Habib Bank or Keystone? Habib Bank and Keystone. I think something like that. I can't remember anymore. But the idea is, of course, companies coming together. And then of course they want to expand together. They want to conquer. They want to be able to reach markets together. And things like that. There are instances where also sometimes it's not just companies with similar products. It's an instance where companies within the same industry, they come together, and then of course they join their forces to improve other areas of businesses. So there's this thing called vertical merger as well. So it's not just horizontal. It's just somebody who is there the margin in order to influence or improve one area, their businesses. So for instance, now I'm a production company and I want to merge with somebody who will handle logistics for me, and things like that. So I'm just merging with another person that will help improve my own business too. There's another category also called a conglomerate. This is the instance where companies with different industries come join their forces just to expand, and then they're able to also meet different customer needs. There's another category also called the concentric. This is the instance where people with different they have similar, what's it called now? They have similar customer base, but their what's it called now? Their services are different. Say for instance now, somebody who sells gas, and then somebody who sells the cylinder. Now their customers are the same thing, but there's different services or different products and services. One product, one service, but their customers are the same. So there are different areas at which you can do this merger. Some, there are instances where, like I said, some can be hostile, some can be proper, merger and merger, so that they all collectively, have a say on the business. Others, you don't even have a say at all. They buy you, buy your stuff, buy everything. Of course, to get to a point where, you must have been frustrated in one particular way or another before your business is bought. Obviously, because you can't meet one thing or the other. Instances where people merge with different businesses because they also want to expand. There's this company called CFAX. I think some of us should be familiar with them in Lagos. This company is a combination of several businesses. So they are into finance, they are into oil and gas, they are into logistics, they're into finance as well. So it's a concentric business. However, they have different sub companies, right? And it's one business owned by one person or one organization. However, they've merged in different areas, to address different needs as it is. So it's important that we also, as economics students, understand what these things are, what they mean, how they affect us, how they affect businesses too. Obviously, there must be a need for something to happen. Probably you're not meeting the required outputs, and then of course you need help from another partner to help you do that. And that's the reason why some of these people engage in things like that. So I hope this has been clear. I hope there's no question regarding this, and then we jump to the next thing. So I think this should be the last area that we need to discuss today. Okay, no, not the last. So there are different things also that affect industry practices, different things, especially different organizations trying to cripple other businesses from making profit or coming into the market. So sometimes there are ways that government kind of intervenes. Sometimes also, because of monopolistic power, sometimes some people restrict other businesses from coming into. So for instance, now, let's say a company who wants to a telecom company that is coming in. Usually competition will not allow you come into that business. Say for instance, now I want to build a telecommunication company and I want to call it Hafiz Limited or Hafiz Telecommunication Limited, and I want to compete with MTN. I want to compete with Nine Mobile and Glo and the rest. Usually they are going to find every way for them to restrict me from coming into that business, because of course they are trying as much as possible to make sure that I do not steal some of their market. They will try as much as possible to frustrate me to not be into that business. In fact, what some people will even do is to crash their price down, that I will not be able to crash my price to that amount, and then I'll get frustrated and I'll go out of that business. Do you know that this is a perfect strategy that some of these organizations do? So for instance, now Dangote will sell salt as cheap as 15 naira. If you realize that I am somebody who wants to start selling salt, and then I'm a competition, I'm a competitor that would steal his market. So if he sells his salt as low as 15 naira, and I know I cannot sell my salt as low as 15 naira, it gets to a point where I get frustrated, because how do I make profit? I'm just a starting business. I'm just trying to, survive, and then somebody comes, a monopoly decides to starts to sell his salt for a particular figure that I cannot even compete with. So these are so many things that happens that frustrate some other business from operation. Sometimes it's not just production related. Sometimes government also finds a way to restrict businesses from doing things like this, just so that people do not take advantage and benefit from some of those things. It's impossible for you to talk about those things and not talk about things about price fixing, market allocation, bid rigging. There are organizations that they want to bid for a particular project, but because they know they are the bigger boys, they will rig the bidding. Instead of the bidding to be open where you can win in fairness, they will rig that bidding because they know some people in that business, and then they will make sure that that business does not come to any other person than them, because they have access to the people who are the people who are organizing or coordinating the bidding. So these are things that happen on a daily thing, and it affects how business are being operated. So there's also something called price fixing, where sometimes people just will agree that we want to sell a particular item on this particular for this particular fee. And then anybody who wants to come into that business, you can't sell at that fee, because it will frustrate you, it will cripple you. You can't do business, so it's impossible for you to just take advantage of that thing. So many things happen where it restricts people from taking advantage, it restricts people from doing business. It just frustrates you, and frustrates you from doing business, and then you just feel like, what, maybe this is not my calling. Maybe I'm not supposed to be maybe I'm not supposed to be in production. Maybe I should go into servicing, because of the frustration that you have seen in different areas. And trust me, in Nigeria, you can't do business and not have tough skin. Nigeria will frustrate you, as a business person, because everything will literally be as if it's against you. If power is not against you, competition is against you. If competition is not against you, government policy is against you. If government policy is not against you, one thing is against you. So many things really happen that affect businesses in today, and we need to be very, very aware of some of those things. Government and industry relationships, this is also something that we need to also understand. There are certain ways that sometimes government, finds a way to help small and medium scale enterprises, or even conglomerate, even multinational companies. We can see today how government supports Dangote in his business. We can see today how government supports small and medium scale enterprises. When we started this class, I think some few weeks ago, I was mentioning about 15 or 20 different companies that helps businesses grow. We mentioned things like NAFDAC, we mentioned things like Nexim Bank, we not mentioned things like the Nigerian Import Export Council. We mentioned so many organizations. These are relationships that governments have done, to help either improve one person's business or improve an industry business, or find a way to, restrict you from doing business. We can see how NNPC is helping and Dangote too, where they say they will supply him with the crude, he will then buy the crude in Nigerian naira, and then he processes it, and then he converts it, and then he sells. So government, if really they really want to help you, they will help you go at every length, as long as you also provide or pay your own tax where required, and things like that. So sometimes also, because government wants small companies to also take advantage, to also do business, they bring some policies in place, to say that, what, let's protect our infant industries, let's protect our businesses within Nigeria, because they want to see that those businesses grow. So many things have been done by government, to ensure that organizations are being supported, in every area for them to build, for them to also scale, So there are different things that they've done. Like I said, they've really tried different things. It's just that the Nigerian system sometimes, you really cannot understand how some of those things work, because sometimes today this policy is there to protect you, another time another policy is there, to affect your business. At some point there was a free flow of importation of certain goods and services, but right now I think there has been restriction. Hasn't been lifted. Honestly, cannot remember. But there are so many things that can really, really affect businesses that government does as at today. Sometimes government also have policies on locations of industries. You know, Sometimes, of course, government will obviously play a significant role, in influencing the location of these industries. And sometimes, it's not just the location, but sometimes they also put policies around labor, they put policies around infrastructures, things like that. So if they realize that, that this particular location, they say, for instance, now, Kogi State, where Dangote's business is. Ideally, sometimes, there are so many infrastructural facilities that should be there within that particular, because of course that place is developing. There are so many things that needs to be done in that place, to influence business happening at that area. Sometimes government also bring in labor laws, some laws rather, that protect, or laborers within a particular region. It's just that sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, governments really, sometimes they help, sometimes it looks like they're frustrating. You can remember the rift between the NLC and the NTUC, and then with governments too, so it's really, really frustrating sometimes. Minimum wage 70,000 naira, and then fuel price increased. So sometimes some of these things really, really affects us, affects businesses. Sometimes you realize that it influences business growth, so sometimes those policies really, really affect, and then it affects how these things happen. Sometimes they provide subsidies too, you know other times they remove subsidies, so like I said, it affects sometimes positively, other times it doesn't affect positively, it affects negatively, and then you as business person, you realize that you are being frustrated in one area or the other. Sometimes you also realize that government you also introduce other developments in regional areas. Sometimes you realize that infrastructures are being put in place, especially maybe things around what's it called now, proper road networks in certain regions. You see that they're putting things like that. Say for instance now, some state governments, they put some proper rules, just to ensure that proper products come into that particular country, particular state, and they also are able to take out products from their own state to other states. So it boosts businesses, it boosts what's it called now, returns for them. It also increases tax that comes into their purse as it is. So like I said, there are so many initiatives that has been brought into play by government, and how it affects businesses, how it affects different organizations, how it also affects us in the long run as business. So like I said, government makes and government more, as it is. So it's just that we hope as entrepreneurs or business people that those policies will help, shape our business and put it in towards the right direction. So ladies and gentlemen, I think this brings us to the end of the areas that we've discussed, especially in economics. Like I mentioned when we started, we were just to discuss two main topics, and they are the understanding the theory of production and also understanding the factors that affects the location of business and industries as it is. And just to give a quick recap of what we've discussed so far today, because I'm trying for us to round up in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Just to quickly give you a recap around what we've discussed today. We've talked about the production, we've talked about the factors of production, where we mentioned about six of them. We've also talked about how these factors of production really affect businesses, and how we need to think in the 21st century mindset. We've also talked about markets. We've talked about market types. We've talked about the 7 different types of markets: perfect, monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, duopoly, monopsony, and oligopsony. We've talked about all of these things and how they affect businesses, how they help us, how to also know what business fits in what area, and things like that. We've also talked about the production functions. We talked about cost and how cost affects businesses, how costs, affect us in the long run as well as in the short run. We've talked about that too. We've also talked about the calculation aspect of things. We talked about the production functions: total cost, average cost, marginal cost, variable cost, fixed cost. We've talked about their formulas too. We've talked about how to interpret those costs in real-time scenarios, talking about how to calculate these things. We've talked about the calculation for total cost, marginal, average. We've solved those things, and of course, with your contribution, we've been able to address the classwork that we did about an hour plus ago. And then we came into law of diminishing marginal returns. We talked about the law of variable proportion, saying that these laws are similar. However, one is different from the other. One is in an incremental mode. One is obviously when output is already gotten, and then adding an additional variable affects the total output at the end of the day. And I said that this law of variable proportion comes in three different stages. The first stage, of course, is you're growing incrementally as a business, and then second stage is you get to the point where you're not growing anymore. It stops. You get to a point where it starts to diminish, and then the third point, or the third stage, is where you start getting negative returns at the end of the day because of the variable, the variable you've been trying to add to your business. And then we talked about profit maximization theory. We talked about how monopolistic markets, take advantage of these things, and how they make supernormal profits. Why they make supernormal profits? No business person will want to go into business without identifying how the money will come back to him. Even though they make what's it called now, enough investment in business, but of course they also want to know how that business will come back to them. We talked about how DSTV is taking advantage of that as our last year. Of course, this is something that we discussed in the previous class. So we talked about the factors affecting location of businesses, why some businesses purposely try to frustrate other businesses from coming in, and how they make everything frustrating for other businesses because they want to take advantage of the monopolistic power that they have, or monopoly power that they have as at that time. We talked about the factors affecting or influencing location. We talked about raw materials, fuel, transport, labor, capital, government policies, which frustrates and sometimes even makes it better for businesses, small and medium, to take advantage of those policies introduced by government. We talked about merger and acquisition. Some are hostile, some are nice, some are friendly, some are, a balance, in a way where everybody has a say. Some will bring in their staff. In fact, some, when they even acquire your business, they chase your staff out. They have to now bring their own staff into the business. So there are different forms and how these things apply. We've talked about the horizontal, we've talked about the vertical, conglomerate, concentric. We've talked about all of these things and how they affect businesses as at today. We've talked about the restrictive industry practices, why people frustrate others from coming into business, why sometimes also the top businesses frustrate small businesses, like that threat of new buyers, threat of all of those threats that affect the big boys in the industry. We've talked about government industry relationships, how as at today it helps the people like the Dangotes, it helps small and business scale enterprises. How some relationship with government has helped influence the growth of some businesses as at today. We've also talked about how policies in this policies by government also helps, infrastructural facilities help small scale businesses. How some of their policies also affect businesses negatively, so it happens positively, it happens negatively. Like I said, Nigeria sometimes as a business person will test you. Nigeria will test you. Nigeria will somehow frustrate you as a business person, and then just for you to find a way to survive at the end of the day. Because if you give up, there's this thing that they say that you will give up now you fuck up or something like that. So if you fuck up, if you give up now you fuck up or something like that. But of course, the idea is for you not to be frustrated, but of course trying to see how to make or take advantage of the situation that comes your way. There's always this saying that what's the word now? Opportunities are what was that thing that there's what's the word now? How did they say it now? Every problem is an opportunity. Yeah, every problem is an opportunity. It's just for you to now find a way to take advantage of that problem and the opportunity that it presents itself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I hope this has been very, very interactive. I hope this class has opened your eyes to a few things, even though some of these things are easily relatable. These are things that we see in our everyday lives, and we're able to relate with on it immediately. Thank you very much for your time. I don't know if there are any questions for me at this point. I'll entertain questions, and then we can call it a wraps as it is. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Questions, please. Questions. If there are no questions, me, I will ask my own. If there are no questions, I'll ask one too. Questions, please. Questions. Question.
Please feel free to ask your question. Thank you.
Question. All right. So if there's no question, I have one. When I mentioned things around factors of production, and I said technology and innovation, what do you think would be the reward for technology or the reward for not innovation or information? What do you think will be the reward for technology or information? There is no right or wrong answer, because even right now, it's not like anybody knows it online or something, but let's ask ourselves, what do you think will be the reward for the factor of production for technology or information? We said land is rent. We said labor is wage and salary. We said entrepreneur is profit. We said capital is interest. What do you think will be for technology? Good question, yes? How many of us listen to this weird guy called Bayu? Curiosity made me ask or something like that. All right. So, what do you think will be the reward for technology or information? There is no right or wrong answer. What do you think will be? In fact, there is no even right answer. So you can say anything, that you think will be the reward for technology or information. Reward for technology will be innovation. Nice. Well thought. Yes, nice. I agree. How about information? Anybody? What probably would be the reward for information? For me, if I were to take, I would say for technology will be right, like Messi had rightly mentioned. It could be innovation, it could be quality, it could be anything. For innovation, for information now, I might probably will say things around maybe ideas, maybe I would say ideas. Really, because the more you have information, the right information, ideas will come in, and then of course you can even make money from it. In fact, some people say from technology, you could even say things around licensing, improvement. Thank you. Information too, improvement. Yes, I totally agree with you, Mercy. I totally agree. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let me not bore you even more. I'm sure people are already thinking about 25th of December, and I'm borrowing them from 21st already. I'm borrowing them from 21st. So I think at this junction, I will say thank you very much, everybody, for the opportunity to do this with you, and thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, for your questions, your contributions. It was really, really helpful, and then of course very yeah, very entertaining and collective. Thank you so much, everybody. I think at this point I would hand over to Messi, and see you in the next one. Thank you very much, everybody. Messi, over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Hafiz. I really enjoyed the class. Like, you literally took me back to my introduction to, sorry, yes, introduction to economics.
Thank you
I've
very much,
even
Messi.
forgotten the course code, right? So, but it's really been nice. Yes.
Thank
Like,
you
you
very
had to
much.
refresh my memory. And I believe that a lot of us here, like me, have been refreshed as well. And for the people that are just hearing about this, I believe you really enjoy economics. So, just like you said, economists are not stingy, right? So, we are always putting everything on cost. So you have to
Exactly.
cost everything you want to buy. All right. So thank you so much, Afis. Please, a round of applause to our lecturer. I really enjoyed the session. Thank you. Okay, I think a lot of persons, just like you said, have exited and they're already going to prepare for Christmas, right?
Christmas came
So,
early.
yeah, it came quite early. By right, we are not even supposed to have this class today, but because of
Right,
the disruption of network, so that's
right.
why we have it up till today. So we apologize for that, and I also believe that you had value for your time. Thank you once again. So, okay, I believe we've all done our test. Yes, we have. We have done that. So we've come to the end of first semester. And for those who registered for business management, we've come to the end of the class. And I really appreciate every one of us for always staying by. Okay, so this is a quick announcement. So by January, you will be informed on when your exams is going to take place. Okay, so please go back and read up from the very beginning of this course. For our NID students, go back and read on the past questions in your test, because you will likely see them again in your exams. So I'm just saying this to prepare you ahead of time. Okay, please. Then for those of us who are yet to follow us on all of our social media handles, why now? Why? Please follow us on all of our social media handles on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, engage on our posts, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, share, comment. We need your engagement, all right? Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to that. So a quick one also, we intend having a Facebook Live session tomorrow. If that is going to be rescheduled, you all will know on your different platforms. But be that as it may, please have this at the back of your mind that we are going to be having a Facebook Live session come tomorrow, 22nd December 2024. It's going to be very brief. So I promise you it's not going to be boring at all. It's going to be very brief from 6 p.m. tomorrow. Please look forward to that. If there's going to be a change, we'll still communicate on our various platforms. All right. Thank you so much. I think that's going to be all. If there is any other thing, it will be posted, like I said, on our various platforms. Thank you so much for having us today. It was a wonderful time with Hafiz. So we've come to the end of first semester lectures, and I wish you a very happy Christmas and a very beautiful 2025. I pray the Lord will keep us for us to see the new year. All right. See you
Amen.
all in the next one. Bye for now. Bye, Hafiz.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye. Cheers.